Okay. I'm assuming that everything's up and running. And if it's not, fucking Cox. All right. Anyway, happy Saturday. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live Saturday night overnighter. Hopefully you guys are getting this. I'm going to check the chat to make sure because I've been having massive internet issues the last half hour or so, trying to get the right one going. So hopefully, like I said, if not, I'm just basically talking to myself for the next 3 hours. I don't care. Happy Saturday. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the week. You have one more day left. Another non-NFL Sunday is tomorrow. But like I said, baseball season's coming up. NBA season's coming to the last 20 games. And Stanley Cup playoffs. The one sporting event that literally takes years off my life is on the horizon. So everything's good. And then, like I said, we close into the summertime, which for me, living in Vegas, is absolute hell for about 3.5 months. Then it gets back to being fall, my favorite time of the year. So it seems like every time I turn over, a big chunk of time has passed. Like, holy cow. But not too much of a newsworthy week other than what we've already gone on. No silly tweets going out. Nothing real big. Couple wacky movies got released. And that's about it. I think everything else is just incoming. So tonight we do. I have at some point I am going to have a guest come in. He is a local film director who's made several movies, and as a matter of fact, him and his buddies have actually shot scenes at the Sci-Fi Center. We'll have his IMDb page moved up, but this is going to be his first time using StreamYard, so it might take him a little while to figure it out. So if you see me go off air, it's because I'm walking him through the steps to get on here. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the truck driver. Thade, how you doing?
What's up, everybody?
Oh, no hat tonight.
No.
You can't be a truck driver without the hat. But so tonight, along with other things, we're going to talk about one of my favorite comic book characters, villain or otherwise, of all time, and it's going to be Kang the Conqueror. Specifically, we're going to later on in the show, we're going to focus on Rama Tut and who else? Up? Hold on. That's the person I was telling you about. All right. Okay, hold on.
There we go. I put on the character there.
Okay. All right, so I'm just texting our guest as soon as he's just now getting everything set up, so he should be in at any time. So as soon as I pop in, oh yeah, there you go. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Kang, Rama Tut, and Immortus, all of whom are the Nathaniel Richards, and we're not going to talk spoilers about Ant-Man and Wasp, even though I know it's been out for a while. Some of you guys haven't seen it yet, but we're just going to go.
Are we going to talk about the Scarlet Centurion and Iron Lad as well? Since we're talking about Kang?
Not today, because be honest with you, I thought about just going through all of the Kangs and all of it. We would need a lot of time on that one, and that would probably be its own show. But the main one is Kang, the very first one, is Kang. Then you have Immortus, but Rama Tut, in my opinion, is gonna be
the best way to bring in mutants.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be the most important one because of who he brings in, who Rama Tut meets, and who Rama Tut goes back in time to. How you doing, Aaron? Who Rama Tut goes back in time to bring in, and that's Apocalypse. That's not a spoiler right there.
So do you want to go ahead and say hello to our chat before we bring in the guest or whatever?
Yes.
All right. Let me start bringing up some chats then. Okay. Unfortunately, Stella is not going to join us tonight. She's not feeling well, so she's sleeping.
Yeah, I'm feeling like shit too, but I almost didn't do the screen. Hey, this is not Enosh is not here for this show. He may pop in, but hit the like button anyway. Tap here.
Chappie come in and say hi. Of course, Jason Ease is always here.
Yeah, I was talking to the chat while I was having my internet catastrophes here with Cox. Fuck Cox Cable, by the way.
What's up, Daniel Martin? How you doing, buddy? What's up, Beltray? How you?
How you doing, Anthony?
Hey, Jalen, how you doing?
Hello.
Looks like Jessica's here.
She's a first timer for me.
We got numbers. That's what we're calling you, man. We're calling you numbers.
Okay, let me answer this question real quick because this came up. The series adaptation of DC's Dead Boy Detectives is moving to HBO Max to Netflix. The series is being moved out due to it not fitting the plan of James Gunn. Yeah, I heard about this today. I don't know if that's the exact reason, but it makes sense. And once again, I'm not going to go into the rabbit hole that we usually go into, but it lets you know that these things can happen. Negotiations happen all the time. So go ahead and hit the next one.
Next one's another set of
That's part
information.
2 of his assessment. Okay, James Gunn has said recently that the bar will be higher for Elseworld stories than DCU, as he explains the difference between DCU and Elseworlds, which is finally finding quality control. Yeah, we'll hit on that a little bit later, but I do like the fact that he's at least acknowledging Elseworlds, and he's not painting himself into a corner. Use Elseworlds as your trapdoor out of a situation if you cannot continue it in your established continue. So I like that. Next one real quick, because our guest did pop up in the back.
Yeah, I see him. We have Jalen Harris saying he needs some good vibes tonight because he's sad. I'm sorry you're sad, brother. Hopefully you catch some good vibes tonight from us.
Yeah, I hope it's not a life or death issue.
Ed N says the game called for a time violation was wild.
New rules. There's new rules in the batting box. You only get so many seconds to get ready, and you cannot come in and out. And there's a lot of new rules that they've hit. They put rules on the pitchers last year, and it pissed everybody off. But they're trying to speed the game up to get it under 3 hours. So it's going to take some getting used to. But yeah, we're already in spring training, so that was one of those. Our winter ball is out, so that was one of those ones that happened today. Manny Machado got hit yesterday for it. So yeah, couldn't happen to a natural guy. Next one.
Daniel Martin says Cocaine Bear. Have we seen Cocaine Bear yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh. I have not seen it yet, but I've heard kind of mixed reviews on it. I'm assuming I'm going to watch it anyway because it seems like a fun little romp. Maybe I guess I'll fun. Just when I get there.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's fun. Next one. Let down. Listen, I thought the trailers are better than the movie.
Says Council of Kangs.
Yes, we will get into the Council of Kings, but not tonight.
Then he says hello to me. A question here from Beltre.
No.
No, probably not.
By soon, when I say soon, I don't think it's going to be. It'll be after Kang Dynasty, because his character is not really as relevant until you get used to Kang, and Kang has a 2-year story arc before you even see him in Kang Dynasty and everything else. So usually when you finally see Iron Lad, Kang's existence makes his existence relevant. So I think he would come soon after. Next one.
Okay, I'm going to show this next one and answer it myself just really quick. We're not going to deal with the drama going on with other channels here.
Yeah.
We're here. Yeah, this is not our platform. We don't talk about drama here. So let's keep this to a minimum, please, guys.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in John Ward. He's back there.
Larry's here.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, Larry? All right, my guest here is John Ward. That's the first time I've seen you here without a hat. He is a Las Vegas director. He's made several movies. Let me go. You're actually on IMDb, which is cool. That I have a guest on my show that has an IMDb page, man. So congratulations.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
So let's go with some of your movies. Wow, you've done 33 movies as an actor or a director?
It's a lot of acting, some directing, writing, producing, a lot of camera work, a lot of sound work, stuff like that.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and meet you real quick, Dave, because you're echoing just while I got him on there. So I'm gonna read through your credentials, and some of these I know very well. Obviously, we have Axmas, Chapman Storage, fake commercial, More Horror in Hollywood, Ion Entertainment. These are all ones you've been directors on. Tales from the Grave, Brutality, Axmas 2, Bloodslay, Meat Hook Massacre, If I Can't Have You, that's a direct, that's just a short, Cannibal, Fright Vision, VHS Violence 2, VHS and Kill, play on Netflix and Kill, My 35-Year Road Trip to See the Monkeys Farewell to 21, that's a little bit less horror though, unless that's a horror and I don't know about it. And VHS,
documentary.
All right, cool. So where did this all start with you, man? I mean, what got you into directing, and what made it to the point where you just wanted to make this your career?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a cop. My grandfather was a cop in LA, and then one day I saw Star Wars, and that pretty much changed everything. So
How
it
many
was
people has
Star
that
Wars.
changed? I hear that. I hear Star Wars must have created like a million directors from like the first day. I'm putting John's IMDb page in the chat so you guys can go ahead and take a look at all of his masterpieces. So that's back in '77. So you saw that, and that's where it started.
Yeah, I was
What made
10
you
years
choose to
old, and
start?
then Close Encounters and Jaws, and that pretty much did it. Yeah, all those three films.
And are those the two that made you pick the horror genre as your predominant one?
I think I'd always liked horror just from television, and but then yeah, I think it just drew me to it. So I used to watch a lot of the creature features, and Chiller Diller, and I'd watch all the Frankenstein stuff and things like that, and that got me into it television wise. And then my mother had no problem taking me to horror movies, so we used to go to the drive-in all the time.
Yeah, same with my dad. What was the first of your films that were you the first of them that you did where you're like, okay, this is the most complete one that I've done so far?
Like out of the current stuff,
Yeah, out of the horror stuff, out of the stuff that you first started shooting.
probably Aximus would be the first
Okay.
one, because that's I had worked on two previous films and realized that you could make your own movie with like 8 people. And so one of them was called Drug Z. The other one is Clown Hotel Massacre. And so I combined those people, and we went out and we made Aximus, and a guy named Brad Twigg, who's
I know
Fuzzy
him.
Monkey. Yeah, he put a thing out on Facebook saying, "Hey, I'm looking for short films for this anthology I'm putting together, Frames of Fear 2." And I said, "Hey, I haven't done anything. You don't know who I am, but if I can pull together this short film, can I do it?" And he read the script and he goes, "If you can make this film, you have a space on this film." And I went out and made it. So that was the most complete thing that I'd made up until that point. So
What was the budget of your very first film, if you can remember it?
like 500.
Wow. You made a movie for 500. But I always, that's one of my favorite questions to ask somebody who's come on and done something, because it's just living, breathing proof that it does not take $1 million to get it done.
No.
Get the first one out of the hole. So what are you working on right now?
We're putting together. Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why it was 500 is because I had worked for free on Drug Z and Clown Motel Massacre. Those people worked for me for free.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and Aximus was shot in the storage facility. Parts 1 and 2 were shot in the storage facility I worked at. And
which is hilarious.
Yeah, so that was free. So really, I mean, all I had to pay for was, food and gas and special effects. And then, so now we're moving into Aximus 3 and 4. I'm going to be shooting a short film called Delete, which is for a my own anthology and probably another one. So that's, and, but Aximus 3 and 4 will have larger budgets, like, 1,000 each type of thing.
Now, when you were filming at your storage unit, were you the boss, or did your boss know that you were filming these horror movies there?
I was, it's a huge story. We got bought out, and then well, in the first one, basically like my boss's boss's boss type of thing came in to visit. And I said, "Hey, can I shoot here?" And he goes, "Look, if you guys break a leg or fall off the roof, I know nothing about it. And I'll claim I don't know anything about it." So
that sounds like a horror movie in itself.
yeah, and so we shot it, and everything turned out perfectly fine. And then for part 2, that's when we got bought out. And then I did have a boss. I was an assistant manager, and so I asked my boss, and she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And so I just kind of went and did it, but the new company never gave me permission. So
I hope they're not watching right now.
Yeah, they got camera footage of us shooting, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to fire you. We're gonna have to let you go for shooting after hours and not having permission and everything." And I didn't want to get my boss fired, so I just said okay. And as long as I could keep the footage, and I left. So,
So when you become big, I mean, when you become huge and you're doing interviews on CNN, you can call out these people and be like, you know what? By the way, that footage that you guys took on your close cut, I want that back. That's my property.
I mean, somebody ratted me out, and because we were shooting, and I'd made some, I put up some photos on Facebook. This is for part 2, and somebody who I guess I was friends with, who also worked for the company, ratted me out to corporate and said, "Hey, you may want to see this guy's shooting at the facility." So, you know, and so they kind of figured out a way of getting rid of me. So it's a much larger story, but
we got a question here, Mr. Ward.
Oh, what's
the best option to get your low budget indie scene? I'm afraid to pull the trigger with my own personal funds because I'm not sure where to put my film and to give it a shot at being seen.
So basically what I did was, once I'd worked on these were 2 features, and I got to act in them, and I got to be behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I realized that I could make my own film. Is I went onto YouTube and started looking at these YouTubers that would basically give you like camera packages. So they would say, okay, if you buy this camera, it's $300. You buy this light kit, it's $500. You buy that. So by the time that I got my complete package, it was $1,000. But I had every single thing I needed, and I didn't have to rely on anybody. And that's just from looking at, you know, people on YouTube that were saying these are the things you should buy. So I went from Amazon to eBay and just kind of went back and forth. I talked to a couple of friends of mine who were in the film industry, and I had my own stuff. So if I wanted to make my own movie, I would not have to rely on anybody. Crowdfunding is okay. It's hit and miss, but the 500 that I put in for Axis 1, and then I did 700. Yeah, 700 for Axis 2. That was out of my own pocket. And I've slowly have seen that back through distribution. But Axis 3 and 4, that was done through Indiegogo. So you just have to have a lot of people.
Okay, so I have my own personal question with the Indiegogo thing, because I'm also possibly going to try to work on my own stuff. Indiegogo, does that like what are the pros and cons of using Indiegogo?
You can either do like a 30-day or a 60-day. You set up everything yourself. So you, the only thing that Indiegogo does is it does take a percentage. So as long as you kind of, it's not like other crowdfunding, sites where if you don't hit your goal, you don't get the money. This, you keep the money. So for Meat Hook Massacre 4, that we went over our goal, and that was a little over 2,000. And then when I did a film, I was funding for a film called Ghoul. We did not hit, so Ghoul was not made. It's maybe in the future. But then for Axis 3 and 4, we went way over the goal, and so now I could take all that money. But you got to it's a round the clock thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's you got to constantly be on it. You got to constantly be monitoring it. You got to be Facebook. You got to be Twitter. You got to be Instagram. You got to constantly be updating everything. You got to be giving out good perks to people, putting up trailers for other movies that you've worked on or that you've done, photos. It is a 24-hour job. I mean, it's not easy doing it.
Yeah, because I have some ideas for some like Elseworlds kind of Batman stories that I've been kind of kicking around for a while. I was just curious.
Hey John, what is your website? I want to put your website in our chat as well.
Oh, I don't have a website. No, I have a YouTube.
Okay. I'll look that up. Yeah,
that's just John Ward at Dark Park Films, and that's on YouTube, and that has everything on it. So that has all my short films. The only thing it doesn't have is Meat Hook Massacre 4, because I was hired to direct that. And so yeah.
Yeah, I remember the story. I really wanted to get with you on that one.
Yeah, just like you, sir. My mother was the one who drugged me into horror movies. My mother was from Sicily, so she introduced me to giallo films very young.
Yeah,
So
I'm Italian myself from my father's side, and so yeah, so I love those type of movies. I think they're awesome.
I'm British and Norwegian on my dad's side, and I'm Sicilian on my mother's side. So
Oh, okay.
I actually grew up part of my life in the UK, but I've been in the States for 25 years, so that's where most of my accent's gone.
Oh, all right, okay.
We have another question.
PRK, John? Or,
Yeah, Park, yeah, PARK, yeah, Dark Park
gotcha.
films.
All right.
Or
I'm
just
putting
look
in-
up Maximus and we'll probably pop up, or Maximus too. I plan on borrowing against my 401k. I'm producing a horror film I wrote called Cannibal Cop. Just to let you know, Donald Farmer has already made a film called Cannibal Cop, and he's pretty well known. Do I send that to festivals? Do I take it to a? What do you recommend? One, I would make sure about that title, because independent filmmakers are very protective of their titles. And there is kind of an unwritten rule on things. Like, I won't make my own Meat Hook Massacre film because it's not my series, but somebody else will not make an Maximus movie because that's my series. And Tim Ritter has a Truth or Dare series, and one of his actresses made her own Truth or Dare film, and that kind of ended things. So I would be careful with the Cannibal Cop title. You may want to change it. I don't know if I would borrow against my 401k. You could probably do crowdfunding, or do like a GoFundMe and do it that way. There's also people on Facebook. There are investors out there that are, interested in doing these type of things. Also, just working on everybody's movies. Work on as many films as you possibly can, doing whatever you can, and you could probably get a lot of free help that way. So you don't even have to put that much money into it.
Especially if you do it locally, because we all know the same people. I mean, you
Yeah.
bring up names that I'm familiar with on a daily basis, so I know you guys
So
all work together.
Are you there in Vegas, Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when I moved out here, I didn't know anyone at all. And when I got onto Facebook, I slowly started seeing that people were making movies, and that there is a small but growing film community out here. And I just happened to meet, because I work at a storage facility. I put a guy came in named John, and he rented a storage unit. And I said, "Oh, what are you putting in the storage unit?" And he goes, "It's film equipment." And we started talking, and that's how I got onto Drug Z. And from there, which unfortunately has never come out, and then from there, I started talking to other people, and I started to become friends. Now I'm really good friends, but at the time, I was starting to become friends with David Sterling, who's a film producer in LA. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, do you want to be a PA on this movie called Clown Motel," which eventually was turned into Clown Motel Massacre? And I said, "Sure." And that's up in Tonopah at the actual Clown Motel, motel. And
I've heard of that one. Clown
yeah,
Motel
it's allegedly a haunted place, and there's a graveyard next door and all that. I didn't see anything, but people said that they did. And the guy who played the killer clown dropped out, and I was the only one that wasn't doing double duty. So they're like, "John, you're now the killer clown." So I went from a PA to basically like the Freddy Krueger of the movie. And from there, that then led to meeting, because now I know two films and two groups of people. Those people then started saying, "Hey, can you work on my film doing this? Hey, can you work on my film doing that?" Sometimes it was slate, sometimes it was PA, sometimes it was lighting or sound. And I got I saw like Drew Marvick's Pool Party Massacre, and I thought that he would be perfect for the Killer Santa in part 2. Well, now I've worked on a couple things from Drew. Drew's worked on a couple things with me. I met up with a guy named Joe Lujan, who's made a bunch of movies out here. Like
I know all these names. I know all of these names, especially Drew's a strange cat.
Yeah, I like Drew a lot.
And Drew, if you're watching, I mean that in the most endearing way. He walked through this parking lot. No shit. He walked through this parking lot, my commercial center parking lot, because he was doing some stuff with Curtis at Photo Bang Bang. He's walking through my parking lot with a severed head and an arm like it's nothing. I have pictures.
To him, that stuff is funny. That's why he does all those pictures and things. So it's best to know as many people as you can in your area, and that way you just. I mean, I can have Drew can call, can text me and say, "Hey, I need somebody to help me on my film. Are you available?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course," and I'll just drive to wherever the location is. And so Joe Lujan is the same way. He'll call and say, "Hey, I need somebody to do sound," because I mostly do sound with Joe, and I do acting with him too. So it's all knowing a little group of people, and that just expands out as long as you do a good job and just be as nice as you can while you're on set.
William, when I make it out there to Vegas to hang out with you, you've got to introduce me to these people. I would not mind doing some of these films, man.
I'm not introducing you to. No, I'm just kidding. They've even shot some scenes here. I'd have filmmakers use my little shack for scenes. I think were you there that time that they did it, and when they filmed at the center, or was that you who did that? I mean, because I actually had them. I think it was you.
I don't think it was my project. I think it was something with Drew. And
yeah, I set up all this kind of cool stuff, and it's like the coolest my place looked. I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, can I keep this stuff? And they're like, no. So no, it's cool. I mean, every now and then I get people that want to shoot out in front, like they want to use my counter. That's kind of cool. And that's like I said, and I don't say, hey, yeah, go ahead and use it, man. I mean, put me in the credits if you get a chance. And I'm on IMDb somewhere. I think it was we either screened something or did something. I forgot where it was, but there's the Sci-Fi Center is somewhere on IMDb. So I've made it. I've done it. So my parents can be proud. But yeah, you are the epitome of the local filmmakers. If you have anything, we're going to be doing our Showmania here pretty soon on March 31st and April 1st. If you have shorts and stuff, if you want to go ahead and submit it, I'm going to be doing a portion where we have local and then people from around everywhere submitting shorts, and then we're going to have Lloyd Kaufman actually introduce them, and we're going to play some of them. So,
nice, that's cool.
Nice. Yeah, we want indies, we want people that that are making these things on the type of budgets that you guys are doing it out here. And then, like I said, once we get them on there, we want to give them some wide exposure. So everybody that we've had on the show I'm going to have them submit stuff. And then anybody else, we're going to make an official posting of it here in the next couple of days. And people can send their submissions either to myself, or there's a guy at Troma that is helping us with this, and we're just going to judge them all, and every one of them will go on our website, on our website that we're going to set up for the event, and then a handful of them will be shown live before we debut Eating Miss Campbell and Shakespeare's Shitstorm. So those are two movies that have not played out here yet that we're going to be premiering with Lloyd Kaufman here. So if you got some shorts, you know how to get a hold of me, send them through, and then we'll put them in the mix, and maybe you can get introduced. And like I said, there's nothing bad comes from getting your name out there. So
yeah. I mean, the people that are out here are pretty amazing. I mean, it's like I said, there's Joe and there's Drew, and then there's also the Mahals,
brothers,
and Heidi Moore is out here, and you got like Mark Stevens, and you got there's a collection of these filmmakers that that are worth checking out, and their films are pretty good too. So I wouldn't.
You should remind me about Heidi. I want to get her at Dolly. I want to get her movies on here. I can get her to discuss her movies.
Yeah,
I'm in Troma stuff.
Yeah, I'm in the second one, and yeah, she's involved with Troma, or at least she used to be. I'm not sure if she is anymore, but yeah, she was involved with Troma.
Yeah, so I think I'll bring her on next. All right, man. Well, listen, I've known you for quite a few years. I forgot how we met, but it's still cool that we did. And I am a fan. I'm a fan of your movies. I'm a fan of that style of movie.
Oh, and I'm a fan of the Sci-Fi Center. You've helped me out, a few times, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I check out some of your stuff, man.
I hope we can go helping each other.
Yeah, Axmas 1 and 2, they're on my website or Tubi. They're also on Plex.
Yeah, I just found them on Plex, so I went ahead and saved them so I can watch them.
Yeah, I actually got really mad at somebody on YouTube. I do have a distributor, and I guess that he didn't realize that this one place that's on YouTube, I don't want to mention who they are, they edit people's movies. and so I actually threatened to sue them if they didn't take my stuff down, because all of a sudden people were giving reviews off of that web channel watching these two films, Axis 1 and 2. And I'm like, wait, all the blood is gone, all the swearing is gone, everything is gone. Like,
you take the blood and swearing out of a horror movie, that's horrible. Come on.
Blood. How do you take blood out of a horror movie?
And I was wondering, like, why are all these bad reviews coming out? I mean, and then I watched the films and I'm like, these are horribly edited. And it's just like, why was this done? So it's, watch out who you send your films to, because you never know what's going to happen. But Tubi's legit, Plex is legit, Kings of Horror is legit. That's on YouTube. So,
all right, John. Well, like I said, good luck with everything that's going on. I know
you're working
on stuff now, and like I said, just keep motoring through. And hopefully, I can get you in on this trauma thing. And if not, we will definitely be doing some type of business in the near future. We have to. There's no way around it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks for your time, dude.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and nice meeting you. Right. And both of you have a good night.
All right, John Ward, everybody. All right, yeah, I really have been dealing with him for quite a while.
I actually went and subbed to his channel on YouTube, so I can check some of his stuff out.
Oh, cool! Everybody, like I said, when we have these guys on there and they have their website, like they said, go ahead and sub to them, even if you can't get into it now. This kind of stuff just makes connections. I mean, $500, he's making movies. You know, I mean, and that's all it takes. It doesn't take $1 million. It's great if you have more, but if and I'll say this every week that we continue to do this, don't let that be what stops you from getting something out. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You know, don't wait around for $10,000 and necessarily, you know, if you can get something out there in circulation. Now he's got several movies out in circulation, and that's helped him get those budgets that allow him to get that, just like Pooh, Blood, and Honey. Those gentlemen, you know, they did that movie on $100,000 budget, dealt with all the shit that came from it. Everybody's giving it their reviews and saying this, but now because that movie closing in on $3 million, they were able to greenlight a sequel before the first one was even released in mass production, because now they have the budget to make, you know, different movies, you know, for 10 times the budget they had before. So yeah, it may not be the polished diamond that you're thinking of when you go see maybe a John Carpenter movie that he's been 40, 50 years in the business. But what you're doing when you support these independent ones is you're allowing them more to work with. You're giving them more room, more budget to work with that next one. And as you continue on with these guys, maybe they'll become you know, they can't reach their potential without support. And that's why I think it's important for us to do this.
Also, you have to look at it like, if you're going to start, you know, you got to start somewhere with independent films. Okay. And you're not, like you said, you're not always going to be polished from the start, but you've got to have a start, you know?
Yeah. It's basically, you have to get you have to get your foot in the door. You have to get that snowball rolling. Go ahead and wherever we left off in the chat, because I don't want to miss it.
I was going to go back to the chat so we can do that. All right. Yeah. So Larry says William Verse.
We don't want to visit that place. That place is probably messed up.
Okay. So Chappie says, and I did see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania a couple of hours ago. Really enjoyed it a lot, dude. Jonathan Majors has a bright career ahead of him. He killed it as Kang.
Yeah, he has the same birthday as me, by the way. That's another reason to love him. But
a whole lot more of hellos, and then we've got a question from Film Goblin.
All right, why does Superman have 3 different post-crisis origin stories? And I'm confused of Batman Year 2, Batman Year 3 are canon, or if the Long Halloween and Dark Victory are retcons to those stories. Not really. They take place in the same time period, but they are not necessarily retcons of those stories. To answer your first question, is because after Crisis, a lot of people whose stories depended on Superman's existence weren't really happy with how they basically got shoehorned into one continuity. So a lot of people started taking liberties, and doing what they wanted. And if you look at it, rolling right up into 0 Hour, where, everybody had a 0, and then rolling right into New 52, people just started doing whatever they want to. And that's what I hate about Crisis, is it was supposed to consolidate a problem that it really didn't exist. But they never really ironed things out with all the creators that were at DC. Superman
it just seems like we have a crisis every 10 years.
Yeah, Superman was a huge IP, and only a handful of people really got involved in the decision making. And when you go 30 years later with New 52, Flashpoint, all that, it was literally one guy making decisions for an entire universe and all the heavy hitting IPs, and writers just started doing their own thing, and that's why you have contradictions. You have the same contradictions that these storylines were supposed to eliminate. All right, go ahead. Next one.
All right, next one is from Larry. It says, William, which homicidal bear was better, Pooh or Cookie?
Pooh.
Or Coke.
Yeah, Pooh. Pooh did it better. The Cocaine Bear, it's fun. It's goopy, but it's not as sadistic. See, I have to have the sadisticness in it, for me to have that extra, punch to it. And Pooh, Blood and Honey, it was just sadistic. The kills are better. I mean, and when you look at a Cocaine Bear, it's feral. It's what a bear would do. It's a logical thing. I mean, some of it's over the top, but in Pooh, Blood and Honey, that is not what a bear does. Okay, so I'm going to go with Pooh. Next one.
And we got Larry giving us props here. It says, during the drama talk on other streams, he was craving me and you just to say it here. He would rather see everything outside of drama.
I'm going to hit on this just a little bit because prior to doing the screen, and Thade knows this just from our private chat, I was thinking about not doing a stream tonight because I didn't want to put, we do a lot of hard work to keep a certain discipline in our part of the community. And it just is really tough when you're basically throwing that into the pool of stuff that goes on sometimes. So ultimately I opted to do a show, and I'm feeling good about that. So yeah, that's probably going to be the last I hit on the nonsense that went on today. Next one. How you doing?
Fourth coming in saying hi. Let me see. Daryl Taylor saying he watched Blood and Honey and saw Cocaine Bear, loved it.
Yeah, so good week for bears. Good week to be a homicidal bear.
Fourth, you're welcome. I saw your question there and figured you wanted to talk to the filmmakers, so you're very much welcome there. Let me see here. People talking about storms here.
I know it was snowing out here a couple of days ago, and snowing in my hometown. I don't do snow, people. I live out west.
Ella told me it was snowing in LA.
Yeah, and it was snowing in San Bernardino, which is more mountainous. And I'm like, in my entire time I lived in San Bernardino, that's where I grew up in the greater LA area, it never snowed. And then it snows out in Vegas. My first 20 some odd years there in Vegas, it never snowed. In the last 10 years, it snows every year. And then the other day, it wasn't just like that stuff that just dissolves before it hits the ground. That shit stayed on the ground. And I'm like, listen, weather, we had a deal. If I stayed away from the Midwest and the Northeast, I didn't have to see snow that stayed on the ground. All right.
Monkey Jeebus reminds us that Megan, the unrated version of Megan, is on Peacock right now.
Yes, it is, and it is kind of fucked up. I don't know why they wouldn't have released that in the theaters, but I guess Megan was PG-13 in the theaters.
By the way, I will be reviewing that on Dark Realms Reviews probably tomorrow night after I watch the movies. So,
okay,
just plug in a show I'm doing. Let's see here. Let's see. We have Larry calling for us to do a Sci-Fi Center Con.
I basically kind of do that every week, but yeah. I got, like I said, the one we got coming up is Tromania. It literally takes place on WrestleMania weekend, and that's going to be, I'm trying to make that a big deal for independent people to come in and meet other people and maybe submit their stuff at the Troma. Just help people, local people get a leg up. And then if you're in the greater tri-state area and you can drive down, you have over a month to plan. Come on down. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Got Michelle comes in and says, hello, my loves. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Love you too. How you doing?
Missed you too, hon.
I missed me too.
We have Monkey G saying the filmmaker should do more live streams to build a relationship with his audience.
Some of these guys do. I mean, like I said, it might be the first time that you guys see them because I bring them to you on this show. But yeah, that is a good point. I mean, and to be honest with you, that may be a good way for some of the people who are just getting in to fundraise because it's a good way to get a lot of people across the nation in on what you're doing and maybe show clips of your stuff because there's no copyright strike because you own it. So YouTube
Right.
may be a good way to make that a great leap forward. But that's a good idea, Monkey.
We've got numbers here. Says William and Thade, what's your guys' favorite Star Trek series of all time? And who is the better female trio? Toxic Traction, Damage Control, or the Riot Squad?
I'm going to go the last question. I'm going to go with Damage Control.
I agree on that one.
Yeah, the first question is going to be Voyager.
For me, so far, it's been Strange New Worlds, with Next Generation being a close second.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds may creep up there after its run is done, but now that I'm able to look at it in retrospect for Star Trek Voyager, I've seen all 7 seasons. I watched the evolution of that show, and I love it the best. But I mean, like I said, on any given day, I could see Strange New Worlds just where it is now, just where it is in the first season, eventually replacing it over time. All right, next.
All right, we have Michelle asking if you have an email because she's got something to send us. And
I'll put my business. It's a business email, so it's not private. I'll put my business email in the chat. And so, if anybody ever wants to email me with a question you don't want to answer here or anything like what what Michelle's doing, hold on, let me make sure I don't fill my own franchise wrong because that would be embarrassing. Yeah. There you go. Anybody, like I said, if you want to just put it in the chat. So if you ever want to email me, you can just email me at that and I'll get it. So contact@thescificenter.com.
All right. And Dork Knight here says, I'm in the process of writing my first short film that I'm planning to direct myself. I'm stoked and have hope more people pay attention with independent film. Dork Knight, I would be interested in seeing what you produce, brother.
And you know how I feel about independent films. That's just the whole point of what we're doing right now with these guys is to give people that extra boost that they may need. Who knows who might be watching one of our shows? They may want to invest. That's why I always tell put their websites and all that out there. So hey, maybe somebody out there wants to fund one of these things. So congratulations on taking that first step. I look forward to seeing what you have, what your output is. All right, next.
Monkey Jeebus says he picked up Superman #1 and Blade Runner 2039 #1 today.
Blade Runner 2039 has some excellent covers. I got all the variants. I got all the it's Titan Presses who puts it out, and the covers that they're doing on these things. I've shown you guys some of the other ones. They do basically the same thing. There's a lot of Sid Mead concept art in there. There's a lot of painted. I mean, it's the covers on these things. There's like 6 of them. Hold on for a second, man. Let me show you guys some of these because they're really all inspiring. I wish I knew I was going to have a Blade Runner question, or I was I had it ready. Hold on. One of them is directly from, if you've seen Blade Runner 2049, Love. One of them has her on the cover, and I think I may have sold that one today, but hold on. I'm pulling out all the variants that I still have left because issues 1 and 2 are out right now. So let me bring those out. I think I may have sold my favorite one because I had it. All right, so and this is another reason I got to remind myself to add another camera so that I don't have to shove things up to the screen. This is a Blade Runner 2039. This is what he's talking about right now. That's one of the covers.
Dude, that cover is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's the main character right there. You have that one. Hold on, let me see. There we go.
Here we go.
All right. They do some retro old comic book stuff, some like late 80s. This is the retro cover.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like they do it back. This is one of my favorite ones. Whenever they get a chance to do Sid Mead's artwork, the late great Sid Mead. There is a spinner. That's an early concept.
Yeah, that's very Sid Mead.
There's another one that's even better that's coming up. And then there is this one right here. I think that's love. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I saved myself copies. That's the main antagonist with her nice revolver gun. This one right here is probably one of my second favorite one right here, and that's the patrol car spinner, one of Sid Mead's earlier concepts. This is from the original Blade Runner concept. So I'll go ahead and put those back. But yeah, I have not read Superman 1 yet. I got it, but I haven't read it yet, and I haven't read. I got both of the first issues of Blade Runner 2039, but I have not read them yet because I usually wait till the third issue comes out. They are very short stories, by the way. They don't have very many pages. Hold on, I got one more cover I want you guys to see. I lied. I had two more that I wanted you to see. Here's the one I was telling you about with love on it, and this is one of my favorite ones to come out. This is issue number 1. This is another variant. If you remember Blade Runner 2049, when she's getting her nails done and she has that thing on her eyes and she's using it to guide the missiles in to save Officer K, that's her right there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then this cover I thought was absolutely stunning. It has all the 3 main characters on it, and this is number 2, and that cover is great. I love when I open up my box and I know I got Blade Runner stuff coming. I hope Titan Comics never stops making Blade Runner comics because just the covers alone. Now the artwork inside is okay. It's not the greatest, but it's good enough to get the story across. So that's really all it needs to do. But those covers are stunning. So, all right, next one.
All right. Fourth says he just watched The Whale. Wow, best movie of the year so far for him.
I've heard a lot. I heard you might win Best Actor. So, next one.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that it was a great movie, but they can only watch it once. It's like very emotional.
It looks very disturbing. So,
then we have a question from JR Server. What are your thoughts on WB showing The Flash at CinemaCon 2 months before its release? That certainly is a huge show of confidence on their part.
Yeah. They don't show films at CinemaCon that they don't have a high opinion of. I'm gonna try. I filled out my press application for CinemaCon because otherwise you got to pay like $1,400. You can get in, but I just like last year, I just didn't feel like paying that much money because there's only one movie I wanted to see, and that was Top Gun Maverick, and I can wait the 2 months. If I can't get the center in, because we do a lot of stuff with licensed dealers and we do a lot of stuff with film representation. We may be able to get in. If not, I'll wait. I'm not going to pay. I think the Flash is going to do great, but there's a bunch of stuff that Cinema kind of just don't, I'm not big into. I think the Flash is going to be huge. I think even with Aquaman's bad test screening, because I'm going to let you guys in on this secret. You probably already know test screenings don't mean shit. All right, so that doesn't mean that a movie's not going to do blockbusters, especially one with the MILF magnet in it. So, because to be honest with you, I know a lot of people like the original Aquaman. It's goofy, it's kind of silly, but yet it made $1 billion because it reached its market. Especially if we're not at war with China by that time, and we get a release date there. I think you're talking about 2 movies that can make $1 billion, and all the stuff we've been talking about in regards to James Gunn. He may look at that, and that may feed into what he's planning on doing. So I think The Flash is a very, 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 very important movie. And like I said, the previous management, one of the biggest Achilles heels that they had was not showing confidence in their filmmakers or the films that were made. So I agree with you, JR Server. Next one.
Okay. Monkey Jubis says the Cubs were sadistic, William. They ate guts.
Yeah. I don't know. Can I say this without spoiling it? Well, that's enough there. Now there's guts. There's a disembowelment. Okay, there's a disembowelment, and a meal was had. What can I tell you? Hey, the chitlins weren't wasted. How about that? There you go. Next one.
Michelle says, would you mind me sending you and Thea a gift? Again, she was talking about that. She says one of her shorts that she wrote. Would like your opinions. So if she sends you anything, just let me know.
Yep, send away.
Okay. So Film Goblin, back to his comic book question. Well, Batman Year 3 tells the origin of Dick Grayson becoming a Robin, but then Dark Victory also tells the same story, so which is canon? You could possibly consider both, in my opinion, canon. They're just told from different directions.
It depends on who takes up when it comes to comics, unfortunately, and this is not a good answer, but it's what happens. It's who takes on the newest version of the story and what they decide to keep as canon. Because this is what I was saying before about with the term selective realignment, then the current guy, whatever he decides is canon, is canon. That's that's just what happened. I mean, if you look, especially post New 52. So if you look at Dark Victory, when did Dark Victory come out? Should have this up. This was not a good time for me with DC, by the way. When they started doing this, because they did this a lot.
Year 3 was.
Well, Year 3 was earlier on.
2011. Dark Victory was 2011.
Yeah, and then
no. Wait a minute. 99. Dark Victory was 99. Zero came out in 2011. But the core series was 99 to 2000.
But what about Year 3? He's asking. Year 3 came out when?
Year 3, let me see.
Year 3 was the first one. That would have been back in because I know Year 2 came out in 88. So Year 3 was 90, I think. Oh man, that's been whoa, dude, you're making me old. Hold on, Year 3.
Okay, so Batman storylines. I have not seen Batman Year 3.
I got it. Hold on, I got it. All right, Batman Year 3 was permanent. I have Batman Year 3. It was published in 1989. So, all right, rule of thought then, and then this is horrible. It's going to be the most recent one, unfortunately. So there's your answer there. Sorry, that's probably not the best answer to give you, but that's generally how they do it. All right, next one.
Hal Jordan says hello to both of us.
Hi, Hal.
What's up, Hal? JR Server comes back with, what do you think the best surprise the Flash could throw at us could be?
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, that'd be nice. Daniel Martin says, no doubt, not everyone can be Chris Stuckman and raise $1 million for his movie Shelby Oaks.
Yeah,
true.
I mean, and I'm glad not everybody waits to get that million to make their movie. I mean, if you can get it, great. But if you got to pull the trigger, pull the trigger.
John gives his parting shot and says, hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I mean, like I said, I wish you all the good fortune in the world. I hope to work with you. It's always fun working with you, and it's always fun watching your films. So anything I can do to help, I am more than happy to do so. So thank you for being my guest tonight. All right, next one.
Film Goblin says, did you like Zack Snyder's Watchmen, William?
It is my favorite Zack Snyder film by far.
It's also my favorite.
Yeah, it is. I watch it on a very regular basis, and it's one of those very few movies that are that long that I watch all the way through because I love it all the way through. So yeah, that's my favorite Zack Snyder movie.
Fourth asked Larry if he made music for film, and Larry says yes. I've worked on a few indie horror scores with my band. Larry, hit me up on Twitter. I have a question about maybe some music for my channel for YouTube, since I do the horror stuff. Numbers here says, William, do you have any reading recommendations for Kang the Conqueror to get into the character?
Yes, I do. I sure as hell do.
And here's where we start rolling into the answers for Kang the Conqueror and our other main story for tonight.
All right, so there's a couple different ways to go with Kang. All right, I don't have omnibuses here yet, but I do have them on the way, and once I get them in, I'm going to keep a lot of the FF and Avengers stuff in stock because Kang is not just going to be a bit player. Kang is a major player going forward, and the best I'm going to bring up because you can go to marvel.com and it gives you the current interpretation of Kang. What they're using in the movies and going forward is going to be an amalgam of interpretation of Kang is, as well as the classic. So all right. Wow. All right, so Kang, his first appearance. What was his first appearance? Was it number 12? Let me see. Kang's first appearance was, depending on what you let's see. All right, Avengers number 8. Avengers number 8 was his first appearance as Kang. He first appeared in his actual first appearance as any of his entities was Ramatut in Fantastic Four number 19. That was a classic cover where he has them all enslaved and in chains, and he's in the in the front of the cover. I wish I had that issue in any condition. All right, after that,
Fantastic Four what?
Fantastic Four number 19. All right, I am going to give you all of Nathaniel Richards' appearances in order before we start. All right. So he first appears as Ramatut in Fantastic Four number 19. You'd see him again as Kang in Avengers number 8. You see him as a Mortis 2 issues later. This is when you start to get the feel of who this guy is and what he is. All right. You see him in Avengers Annual number 2 as the Scarlet Centurion, and we'll get to that one later on down the line. You first see him as Nathaniel Richards himself in in What If Volume 3. He has another alias, Victor Timely, Avengers Annual 21. That's 1992, as Iron Lad, which is we're gonna hit that one next week because that'll twist your brain. Young Avengers number 1, and it was not revealed necessarily. I don't believe that's who he was until them. Chronomonitor in Marvel Adventures Fantastic Four number 23. That was 2007. As Mr. Griffin. That was just a regular human alias. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and read you the pre-Kang history, and just to give you a
before you do that, William, I've got the cover for Fantastic Four number 19.
There it is. Yep,
right there.
That's the first page of it. Yep, that's Rama Tut. That is Kang. All right, remember Rama Tut. Remember Rama Tut. When all this Kang Dynasty stuff hits the fan and it starts to settle down, you'll know when they're. And this is my guess. This is just my guess. You will know when they're about to start bringing in major mutants into the continuity when you see Rama Tut, because it is my belief, based on bullshit, but just based on my geek brain and how it works here, is that the first mutant that you will see as far as mainstream mutants, is Apocalypse, is in Salvanor. You may not recognize him as Apocalypse when you see him, but in one of these Kang Dynasty movies or in Kang Dynasty, when they beat him, that's how he assumes that identity. He goes back because he knows Apocalypse is there. So in my opinion, he is going to assume the identity of Rama Tut, and that is where you're going to see Apocalypse for the very first time. And you won't recognize him because he doesn't have all the tech yet. But he'll
I'll be right back, William.
Okay. He'll say something like, behold, the next great power in Salvanor, something like that. But Rama Tut is going to be the one, I think, that brings out the Age of Mutants, because he's going to introduce us to the very first mutant. So let's go ahead and read Kang's biography per Wikipedia. I'm using Wikipedia right now because it has the most updated one, but it also has the consolidated universe one, which is very important depending on how they're going to tell the story. All right, Nathaniel Richards is a 31st century scholar and descendant of Reed Richards. Time-traveling father Nathaniel becomes fascinated with history and discovers time-traveling technology created by Victor Von Doom, another possible ancestor of his. He then travels back in time to ancient Egypt aboard a sphinx-shaped time ship and becomes the pharaoh Rama Tut. That's why you see him for the very first time. While a variant of him is simultaneously recruited by the Time Variance Authority as Chronometer 616. 616 is the current comic book universe. With plans to claim in Salvanor Apocalypse, the mutant that destined to become Apocalypse, as his heir. The Pharaoh's rule is cut short when he's defeated by the time-displaced Fantastic Four. That is from the cover that they just showed you. And an embittered Nathaniel Richards travels forward to the 20th century when he meets Dr. Doom, who he believes to be his ancestor. He later designs an armor based on Doom's, that's where you get Kang, calling himself the Scarlet, or he eventually gets Kang, calling himself the Scarlet Centurion, pits the Avengers team against an alternate reality counterparts. He plans to dispose of all of them, then the Avengers manage to force him from the timeline. And if you remember, further down the line, Scarlet Centurion is one of the main enemies of Squadron Supreme. So he actually has an alternate universe of his alternate persona. All right, Nathaniel then tries to return to the 31st century, but overshoots 1,000 years, discovering a war-torn Earth that uses advanced weapons they no longer understand. He finds it simple to conquer that planet, expanding his dominion throughout the galaxy, and reinvents himself as Kang the Conqueror. But this future world is dying, and he decides to take over an earlier, more fertile Earth. And a lot of the stuff that he has is pretty consistent. The TVA, that's why it was so important to introduce the TVA and have you understand them, because the TVA, Ramona, all these characters that you see there are relevant to the modern day Kang. Now, if as far as reading material goes, if you can't afford to buy the actual comics, obviously you can go on Comixology, you can go on several sites, and you can go ahead and start reading, basically go down all of Kang's appearances. There are some key stories that he's really heavily in, and there's some where he's just a one issue. There is a storyline that took place in the mid-90s called The Crossing. It's a storyline where Kang ends up going back in time and corrupting Tony Stark and being the cause of all his alcoholism and all that. And he actually turns Tony Stark into a villain, causing Tony Stark to sacrifice himself. And an younger Tony Stark ends up becoming the Iron Man of that era after they kill off Kang. They ended up disposing of that timeline when they did Heroes Reborn and all that stuff with Onslaught, and then it just went away. But Kang is a very dangerous enemy simply because of all the points in time that he's seen. This version of Nathaniel Richards would be the most deadly version because he's the most benevolent version, even more so than Rama Tut. Because Rama Tut, he becomes Kang after he's been defeated, and he hates to be defeated. You probably saw that in the movie where he pretty much does not being slighted. So you're dealing with a much angrier version of Nathaniel Richards, and he has technology that is literally beyond. Just imagine the modern day. Just imagine Tony Stark and somebody having 1,000-year head start on him. So he is very lethal, very dangerous. But that is pretty much what Kang is. Now, Immortus is the more benevolent, older version of him. So I'll give you his fictional biography too, simply because it's relevant to a lot of the stuff that you'll probably see, and you've probably seen. Nobody spoil it in the chat room if they haven't seen Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania. Don't spoil anything as far as it relates to these characters, if you could, please. All right, let me see. I know Thade is gone, so I wanted to make sure I keep up on the count. All right.
I'm back.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead into our Immortus then. All right, Immortus appeared in Avengers number 10. He's 2 issues later. All right, at some point in his personal timeline, Pharaoh Rama Tut, formerly known as Kang, became weary of battle due to frustration of the loss of his son Marcus and consort Ravana. Ravana is the girl, and she's the one who's running the TVA when you watch Loki. And several timelines, he was approached by the then timekeepers, who you also see, time travelers from the end of the universe, the last living creatures in existence, to become their agent, preserving timelines rather than conquering them. So this is a good, a version of the Nathaniel Richards that's not evil. And he actually fights his evil versions of himself. The Lord of the other dimension world of Limbo. All right, that's who Immortus is. He again came into conflict with the Avengers, but under different circumstances. In this encounter with the Avengers as Immortus, he attempted the destruction of the Avengers through the use of the mythological and historical figures such as Paul Bunyan, Genghis Khan, and Goliath. That was a hilarious storyline. As combatants after trying to join the Masters of Evil, but being told by Baron Zemo that he has to defeat the Avengers. The Masters attacked the Avengers, and Captain America had been taken to the Tower of London 7060, where Rick Jones, blah, blah, blah. I remember that storyline. All right, so Immortus is the actual good version, and then the one who remains is an extension from them. All right, so as far as reading goes, if you can afford to, obviously start with Avengers number 8. If you can go on Comixology and get it on there, do it that way, because you're going to go bankrupt getting some of these older issues there in the hundreds of dollars, if not more, per issue. The other thing you can do is, like I said, do like we did last week, is you can get trade paperbacks. Right now, there are going to be special editions and things coming out because of Ant-Man and Wasp. Not only that, but because in the interim, you have Kang Dynasty, which is going to be the next Avengers movie. And he will most undoubtedly be popping up in other ways and other forms. If you saw the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and Wasp, don't spoil it to anybody, you understand why his movie that he's named after him is not that's Avengers number 8 right there, is not the whole of his story. And now, if you want to get into the modern day stuff, that you can afford, depending on where you are, there is a limited series, Kang the Conqueror. I have most of them on my shelf right now. I actually picked up an issue of the Eternals. I don't know why. It's got covers like that, and now you can clearly see that this cover is beautiful, by the way. It's number 5, and it shows you, it's like a Salvador Dali cover where you see time melting around him and him melting into time. You see the 2 clocks there. This is a retelling of the original origin of here's Rama Tut. So this series is a good series to get because it's going through his entire life. It's going through all of his interpretations. And
here's the Avengers number 10 cover for Immortus there in the corner here behind Captain America.
There you go. And while you're looking at that, there is, if you can kind of see there, they're in ancient Egypt, and this would take place right around the FF number 8, I think.
Also, there's an issue. There's a trade paperback called "The Rise of Apocalypse" that also tells the story from Apocalypse's point of view.
Correct, and it also introduces the characters called Ozymandias, and it shows you the celestial. That's an excellent series, by the way. Rise of Apocalypse. It was released in the mid '90s. Yeah. It was released in the mid '90s, right after Age of Apocalypse started, while the character was still hot. As you can see, you have Kang, you have Ramatut going at each other, and this is supposed to depict right around Avengers number 8. As you get deeper into the story, you have Scarlet Centurion and the Avengers fighting each other, and that's the storyline that's depicted in Avengers 8 as well, Avengers number 10 as well. And then here is the modern day Kang, showing he's fighting alternate universe Avengers. So the Kang the Conqueror series that just came out here last year, year before, that is the easiest way for you guys to get a modern day understanding. If you can find those cover states, that'd be cool. If you could, because I only have a couple of them here because we sold them. But without spending,
which covers are you looking for, William?
Kang the Conqueror, the miniseries, any of the ones you can find. If you can.
All right, I've got one I'm about to share, and then I'll go look for the Kang the Conqueror ones. Okay. Hold on just a second.
So yeah, that he's a very, 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 very intriguing character. What I gave you guys is just the yeah, there you go. Okay, now that's right
there. Yeah, this is Rise of Apocalypse number 1, and that's Ramatut sitting on the throne right there. Yeah, and the guy behind the little dude behind him is Ozymandias.
Yeah, who he eventually turns into stone. And he, if you look, Apocalypse looks drastically different there. It's a cool story because he looks nothing like what you eventually know him to be. He's obviously a mutant. He does have that pale skin at the beginning, but he doesn't look as much like he does when you ultimately see him, because there's a lot of things that he's added to himself because of the celestial technology and the things that Ramatut is able to introduce to him to. But he ends up revolting and becoming the Apocalypse we all know and love today. He ends up going to sleep for thousands of years too, through all that. So yeah, that's Kang the Conqueror. And there are a lot of I think it might be out on trade paperback already. If it's out on trade paperback, grab the trade paperback, because some of the issues were, it'll be harder to find. I eventually want to get them all back in. I had them all at one point, but I had different variant copies of them. But the modern day Kang the Conqueror that we have up on the screen right now, what year did that come out? Was that like 2021, State? Is that the
2021? Yeah. Yeah, 2021.
Even though this other stuff that I showed you is really, really kick ass, to make it easier for you, and they created this series to line up with the Kang that you're going to see now. Because the TVA and a lot of that stuff, even though it's been around for a long time, it wasn't as intertwined into what Kang is currently doing now as it is now. So the storyline has been retconned to the point where it lines up with the TVA, Ravonna, Slayer, all those characters that you come to know from Loki, and you've come to know from the quantum realm, and that you will come to know in the futures. This is the best way to go. This is the best way to go. The other stuff that I showed you is cool. It's for historical preference, but what reference? I mean, but what it does show you is his original beginnings. The Kang that you see in Kang the Conqueror, the series that's up on the screen right now, is for the most part the Kang that's always existed, but they've realigned certain elements of the story to give you a more modern Kang. So to answer your question and also cover one of our main thumbnail topics, numbers, there you go. I hope I've answered that question the best I can. But we will explore Kang over and over again. We're starting with the first primary ones, but next week I'll hit on Scarlet Centurion. I'll hit on some of the other ones. I'll hit on some of the modern ones. We'll hit on Iron Lad. But for the basic premise, it's one guy, the original premise, one guy who throughout linear time has crossed with himself. And that's why when you see they kind of they took some changes when you see him in Loki, because the one above all, the one that remains is sort of like just past Immortus. What he's done is he's gone and defeated each of his counterparts before they could, before they could go on and dominate their particular eras. He's killed them all. Now he's at the end of time, and he set that up so that when Jonathan Majors, you first see him at the season finale of Loki, he is always going to do that. He's always going to be the one that stops his Kangs from basically doing different things and creating divergent storylines and divergent universes. Because each time the Kang does something different, in linear time, he actually creates an alternate universe, and that's why the sacred timeline was so important to the TVA and Nathaniel Richards of that era, because he knows what he's become. He knows what a disaster if all of these ones are left to do their own thing. When they kill him at the end of Loki, there is no longer a person that will always be there to defeat those Kangs. So the reason why Kang didn't exist before is because that guy that died in Loki kills him all the time. The same reason why Scarlet Centurion was never going to exist, because there was always one sacred timeline. And that's why the variants were so important for them to catch them, because they could literally create their own realities. And that's why they were destroying those realities. It made sense once you saw the one who remains, who is basically what Kang will become at the end of his life. Now, what he's trying to do is he's trying to hand it over to Loki because he's tired of doing it. And then what Loki and Sylvie would do is they would basically, since they're at the end of time, they would know when all these variants would come up, and they would be the ones to destroy him. They would in a sense, by de facto, take over his role. But he gave him a choice: take over for me, or kill me. And because Sylvie was so hate-filled because her life basically didn't exist because of all this, she kills him. And now we have all the versions of Kang that will be there without the one last Kang to defeat them. Very intriguing. I can't wait to see this. It's one of the few MCU things that I can't wait to see. The rest of it is just clutter. And Kang, and for everybody that will ever tell you that, well, you can't tell that kind of story. The fans will be confused. You can't have it Elseworlds. The fans won't know what it is. They'll just confuse them. You have to reboot because the fans won't understand. Bullshit. I just gave you the history of one of the most confusing characters that you will ever see. I just gave you the pillars of a upcoming storyline that they will find a way to explain to you, and their audience will eat it up. So if anybody ever tells you that any particular comic story can't be done because it will be too confusing for fans, unless it's your parents and you can't cuss in front of them, tell them that's bullshit. Ask them, well, what about Kang? What about the TVA? All right. And they've been telling storylines like this for the entire time, 1963. So we're talking about 60 years of telling Kang stories, and nobody gets confused. All right, nothing, So this is Kang is unique. A lot of characters are copied from other characters, but even though Kang has sort of been copied, not in the way that they've done him to the point where there's so many of them. The Iron Lad that we will get into next week is what I'll jump on Iron Lad. Iron Lad literally comes before all of that. He comes before all of that. Before there's a King, before there's an Immortus, before there's a Scarlet Centurion, before there's a Rama Tut, there's Iron Lad. Iron Lad is screwed because he must become what he must become in order for the benevolent versions of Nathaniel Richards to actually save the damn galaxy at certain junctures. So he has to become King, even though he knows the horrors and the brutality that Kang will impose on any reality, even though he knows Raman Tut will go back and enslave an entire population and murder people. He knows he has to become that because he has to play his part in what will ultimately become things like the One Who Remains and Raman Tut and so on. So he's caught in an unwinnable dilemma, and it's one of the reasons why I like that character, and it's just another reason to like Kang, the Conqueror. But like I said, the first time you see him though is going to be Kang, obviously, and like I said, I cannot wait to see how this unfolds. So, all right. So now that we've covered that, I can take questions on that. Go ahead and head back to the next one on the chat date. Are you back? Oh, you're back. Okay. William, I hope we get an update about Blade Runner TV show from Amazon tonight. I think we're going to get one pretty soon. They greenlit it a few months ago, and from what I heard, it's in the pre-production phase. And generally, when Amazon announces stuff, you don't have to worry about it happening because you're never going to run into resource issues. So I hope so too, Anthony. Next. All right, Clint Hunley, hit like and subscribe. Yes, hit like and subscribe both to my channel, which is youtube.com/the Sci-Fi Center, and hit like. And so if you haven't already subscribed to the Poindexter Lounge right here in the very screen that you're watching now. And William will never call you stupid for not knowing the most minuscule facts about comic book. I will never. That is one thing I enjoy doing. I don't believe that there's a such thing as a dumb question or a stupid question or a last minute question when it comes to comic book. Given how long I've been into it, given the information that I have in my head and that I have surrounding me here at the center, it is like walking into a museum and expecting someone to know everything. That's why you're at the museum. That's why you got in. That's why this material is here. So I love explaining it to people. It's one of the coolest things I ever get to do, especially when they're in here in the store and they're looking for stuff to get into. Like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for someone to come in and, hey, I saw Kang. I just saw Ant-Man Quantumania. I love Kang. Where can I get started? Just like the questions that was asked here. And I'm gonna have the same exact conversation with them, and I'm going to enjoy having it with them. So that's the joy of the game. Next, Dark Knight, the whale is fucking fantastic. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I will eventually get to see it, hopefully before the Oscars, which are coming up next Sunday. Holy shit! All right, next one.
Okay, so Michelle says that she sent you the video to your email that she wants you to. She says you can go ahead and play it for everybody.
I don't know if I can do it with the internet connection I have. You guys might lose me. Hold on. Let's see. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna switch my internet so that I don't crash. Hold on for a second. You can bring up some more questions, Dave, while I'm uploading, if you want to answer them. I just don't want to. If I disappear, it's because my bandwidth sucked tonight.
Larry says his band's on social media as Cleric, with a period. You can hear our albums, Regressions, and Retro Console on Amazon, YouTube, etc. Monkey Jeebus wants to know if you're meeting with Zachary Levi for the Shazam press stuff.
I don't think so. I think we're just doing a press screening here in Vegas, and I'm giving away some T-shirts and stuff, and buttons and stuff like this. Like the shirts I'm wearing right now. I'm going to be handing those out. By the way, these shirts glow in the dark. It's going to be cool. Handing out things like this, and then it will definitely get posters and stuff, and whatever else they send us. But I doubt, unless they could surprise us, but I don't think so. But that would be awesome if that was happening. All right, I'm going to mute myself real quick. William, how much do you think Shazam 2 will make it? About 450 million. Ads is tracking now. Actually, between 360 to 450 million. It depends on how the promotion goes. It's tough, and I think it's going to be a great movie, but I think it's tough because it's not a banner character. And a lot of the weight that Shazam has to carry has nothing to do with the movie itself. The universe and the franchise has been, and as far as DC has been so disorganized that you're trying to turn people on with a character that's not an A-lister. So I think a lot of people are just going to, not even regard it as something they need to see because there's not any main players in it. That's what makes the Flash special because you've got a lot of mainline recognizable IP types in there, whereas you do not. Just Black Adam and Shazam are just not the household names that pull in anything more than they pulled in. So I think it may, worst case scenario, it makes what the last one did, which is unfortunate because I think a lot more people should have seen that movie, but I understand why they didn't. So, all right, I'll be right back. All right, I am uploading the. Is there, Michelle? Is that music going to get us? Is that? I'm worried about the music. That's the only thing because there's music to it. I don't know. Is that your music? Is that you? Is that your original music? Because I don't want to get you not in any trouble. Let me know if she answers.
Will do. Hold on.
Okay, because I'm going to upload it anyway. While you're doing that, I'm going to upload it. And video clip. Download.
She says no, it shouldn't.
All right, it's processing right now. All right, next question while that's uploading.
All right, let me go back up there. Hold on.
Okay, and then we'll play this here in a couple of questions.
Dork Knight says, as someone who works in post-production, don't listen to what happens during test screenings. They aren't for the general audience. They're only for the editors.
Yeah. And like I said, this whole thing that, Aquaman was this, Aquaman was that, just from a test grading, even if it was, let's give it, benefit of the doubt to whoever's put that out there. By the time we see it, that's why you have test grading. So yeah, it's all right. We're going to go ahead and play this from Michelle. If we go silent, that means we hit a copyright strike, but there you go. Oops. Was that it? Oh, let me play that again. Let me play that again without the without that word in the way. Cool.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
And I am. By the way, did we ever get confirmation that I'm pronouncing her name right? All right.
Daniel Martin says Ray Liotta's last movie with Cocaine Bear. Yes.
Was it? Hold on. I think he had another movie. I hold on. I think
there's one more coming out for Ray Liotta.
Why did he die so early? Man, I still can't believe Ray Liotta's dead. How old was he? He was only 67 years old. Man, hold on. Let me pull up his filmography. All right. So Lady, no, he has more. Cocaine Bear was one of his last one. He has Fool's Paradise, which is what's going to be released. It's completed. It's going to be released soon. The Substance, which is going to be released soon. A movie called Dangerous Waters. It's in post-production, and it's going to be released soon. In Class. So he has 4 movies after Cocaine Bear that will be released afterwards. Man, what did he die of?
Give me just a second. I'll tell you.
I got it here. Leo died in his sleep. Wow, shit.
And just because he died in his sleep, it doesn't really say of what.
No, it doesn't. And they never released it either. So,
yeah.
I mean, I never thought 67 would be, but you just gotta every minute you get on the planet, guys. Ooh, I love Ray Liotta, man. I mean, all right, next one.
Hold on. Comic Tropes did a video explaining Kang's history last week, and it got me hyped to read it. Great channel, by the way. Comic Tropes is a good channel. Also, the Mary Marvelite just dropped a video on Kang as well, and all of his forms.
Yeah, I would have played those, but they belong to someone else. I know the comic strip one is really good.
The Mary Marvelite one is actually pretty good too, and he usually doesn't mind if you play sections of his stuff.
Oh shit! We may do that next week because I'm being really careful when it comes to copyright stuff, guys, because we're broadcasting on two different networks.
I'll reach out to Marvelite this week, just to see if he has any problem with that. But I'll find out for us.
Yeah, because otherwise I don't want to be like, wow, where's a chunk of the stream go? Oops, sorry.
He's a pretty cool dude. I've talked to him before. So.
All right, cool. Next one, then we'll bring in some people.
Larry says, do you think it's cool to read Kang stories in chronological order or release order? I know there's retcons in there.
I would say if you can, release order, because a lot of the intrigue is you seeing a different earlier form after you've already seen the current form. I would say release order. A lot of that depends on who you are too, because a geek like me can comprehend it in release order. I'm not saying everybody else is stupid, but it's like when before episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, we always considered episode 4 as the holy grail, the first one. But if you were born after a certain time, if you watch them when you grow up and you watch them in order, then you're watching episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars before you see A New Hope. So I guess it all depends on how you take in information. Personally, I'm going to go ahead and say release order. Next one. Hi, Anthony Manzano. Long time no see.
Monkey Jeebus reminds us that Ramatut ordered Apocalypse's death, which is true.
Yeah, because he's losing control of him. Yep. Next one. By the way, Monkey Jeebus, another disturbing thumbnail picture for you, dude. I don't know. I don't even want to know what it is.
Larry says, "Whoa, you think Apocalypse will be involved in the MCU introduction of mutants?" I hope so.
I think so. I think it makes the most sense because now we're dealing with Kang. And by the time we get done with Kang's storyline, it is 2-3 years from now, that is when they'll bring him in. As far as because I think Apocalypse is going to be the main baddie for the not just the X-Men but the mutants in general to deal with. And I think Marvel's going to do their own spin on Age of Apocalypse.
RJ Server says, which of 2023's DC and Marvel movies do you see being the best or the worst? I also think the Flash has a lot of potential, but I think the Marvel's not so much after Captain Marvel. I don't know. I think the Flash.
DC, though, there's nothing coming out in 2020, is there?
I think the Flash is going to do pretty good. We have the Marvels coming out from Marvel this year.
I'm asking what's coming out in 2023, like it's next year, it's this year. The Flash, easily the Flash.
The Flash probably will be the best of the year. Monkey
the Spider-Verse is going to be the movie I'll say for Across the Spider-Verse for the Marvel movie.
Oh yeah. Monkey Jeebus says Apocalypse is the first mutant. I'm actually going to correct you here, Monkey Jeebus. He was once known as the first mutant. There are actually mutants older than him. Firehair from 1 million BC and Selene are older. Selene is.
You know what? I got a problem with her making Selene and retconning her. Yeah.
Selene's 23,000 years old, though.
Yeah.
And technically, John Sublime is older as well.
There's been originally for about 30 years because he appeared in X Factor #4 for the almost 99.9% of his existence. Apocalypse was recognized as the first mutant, But yes, they have recognized shit out of things. So yeah, the Selene thing I thought was stupid. But all right, next one.
Let's see here. Just a bunch of talking here. Hold on. Is it true? Okay. Is it true we really don't know if the ancestors were Richards or Doom? Actually, it's probably both. For Kang, Nathaniel Richards, supposedly his bloodline comes from both Victor Von Doom and from Reed Richards. So,
yeah, remember this is thousands of years, 1,000 years in the future. So who knows who could be knocking boots? Hell, we see Beverly and Picard banging at 70. So yeah, could be. He could. Mrs. Richards could have got with Mr. Doom and had a baby. Who knows? All right. But yeah, he's always been a rumored ancestor, but it's just been taken as canon that he is.
Anthony Manzano says, William, this is a hypothetical fight. Who would win a full power Jedi Master Mace? Windu in his prime or Thanos?
Okay, without the gauntlet, the cop out gauntlet, or just mano a mano?
Mano a mano without the gauntlet, Mace Windu would probably beat Thanos.
Beats him in 20 seconds. He could just rip him. You could just use the Force to rip him apart. If it's with the gauntlet, then no, because the gauntlet controls too much. It controls the reality that Mace Windu's powers exist in. So, it depends on what we're talking about without the Infinity Gauntlet. Next one.
Okay, Larry says, is Immortus the same as He Who Remains? No.
No. He Who Remains is the last. He
Who Remains is also tired. He doesn't want to live anymore. He doesn't want to exist anymore.
Because he knows he's going to be born again. And that's the coolest thing about Loki, when she stabs him, he's like, "See you soon." It's like, wow, dude, you're bleeding out. You're bleeding out, and you leave that last one, and that was so important. When did He Who Remains first appear? He was one of the later ones, right?
Yes.
He was when they started telling the stories about the time variants. Yeah, that's right. Because they had to explain who was behind it, and exactly like they do in the comics is exactly how they do it in the show. So yeah, he's it. Immortus is a future version, an older version of him, but He Who Remains isn't actually an older version. He's just the one that's furthest down the line. So when you see Immortus is an old guy. Technically, the way the comics, Immortus is physically older, but from the way I understood it, He Who Remains was further down the timeline, if I'm not correct. And if somebody can correct me, but I think He Who Remains is the last thing that you see. He's the guy that knows everything and knows how everything is going to go. All right, here we go. He Who Remains. Let's see. You may hate the dictator, but something far worse is going to fill that void if he deploys. I love this quote. I've had a million lifetimes. I've gone through every scenario. This is the only way. And that's when he's talking to Sylvie. Nathaniel Richards is a scientist. Okay, let me get to his actual, the multiverse war. So, yeah, there are different characters. He Who Remains is the furthest version of Nathaniel Richards. All right. I got so many windows open up. David William, who is more powerful, Odin Force, Thor, or Superman when he absorbs the energy of the sun?
Odin Force Thor is a god.
Yeah.
So that should tell you who's more powerful.
I mean, he draws his energy from things that we can't even fathom. We know where Superman draws his energy from and can, physically in a hand-to-hand. And Odin, I mean, Superman's weakness is magic, so he would be a formidable foe. But ultimately, even though Superman can defeat foes with magic, I think he would have a hard time. He would have a hard time being Odin than he would Darkseid, because they're at godlike level. So I think I'm going to go with Odin on that one. Next one.
Next one we have Monkey Jeebus saying Comixology is going down. Not necessarily, it's changing. But we do have the Marvel app and the DC Universe Infinite app, which both do better jobs than Comixology ever did.
Yeah, I just threw out Comixology because I just know that's just one in front. But I do recommend that you use the major apps that the companies provide, because they give you what's in those apps and what's from their sites is canon. So, all right, go ahead.
Larry says here in the U.S., Hoopla is also the best app for comics, in his opinion.
Okay.
And Hoopla is free.
It's the best price.
Rhea says hello to me and you.
Hi, Glimmering Harpy. How are you doing? One of my favorite YouTubers in the whole wide world. The one that just constantly brings happiness, glee, and laughter. Next one. What's going on? Is there one after that thing? Or
there's a lot of it talking. Hold on.
Okay, yeah. Don't tell me we caught up.
Yeah. Again, Scipio, please. We don't want to talk about the drama going on over there. We'd rather not talk about it here. So let's not tie up our chat with that, please. Let's see. All right. Anthony Manzano says, William, see when they introduce Franklin Richards, I don't think he's going to have any connections at all to the Kang in MCU. No, he won't. Most likely.
And remember, they have a dad and daughter. I mean, they have other kids, and those kids, I mean, you just never know where it comes from. They've always been ambiguous about what, if he is an ancestor, at what point in the line. And if you look at it, I mean, there are so many ways you could twist up that story and end up with Nathaniel Richards. So yeah, you're very right, Anthony. Next one.
Okay, we have this from Manzano.
All right, William, after watching Black Panther Forever, I'm wondering what Black Panther comics should I read? There's a story. I forgot what the particular issues are, but there's a storyline where Shuri does take over temporarily for T'Challa. But for the most part, those are temporary situations. So that would be the only storyline that I could tell you, because when you go buy Black Panther comics, it's Black Panther. It's T'Challa, like it should have been in the movie. But hey, that's an argument for a different day. Next one.
Jeebus asks if you sell Bad Idea comics at your store.
Not currently, no. That's probably an indie. I haven't heard of those, but that's because I've been basically focusing on the major titles. But I'm starting to carry a lot more independent stuff. So if I don't carry it now, I will eventually. Numbers. Is there any Marvel characters you guys feel they'll never do it MCU for being way too mad, like Jim Jaspers? No, they could easily do Jim Jaspers. They could easily.
That would be an interesting story if they did Mad Jim Jaspers, though, because he's OP as hell.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever bring Captain Britain in, that's a primary character that you could use.
The one or two characters that I think they couldn't do is, I don't think they could do the Marquis of Death, because of the nature of his character. He basically eats multiverses.
No, I'm not saying that they should, but they could. They could. They shouldn't, but they could.
Clyde Wincham, the Marquis of Death, would be horrible. Ugh.
No, the one above all, I don't think they could do. The Beyonder, I think they could do, but I hope they do not, because that's just lazy. But yeah, those characters right there would be the ones.
Rhea wants to know any updates on the meetup for all our YouTube pals. With what's going on right now, plans are probably on hold. And again,
I'll get back to you on that, Rhea. Next one.
Michelle says, I have so much to learn when it comes to comics. I don't think I will ever catch up with it. Michelle,
that's the beauty of it. I will never catch up. I've been collecting for 40 years. I will never catch up. That is the beauty of the wheel. That is the glory of the machine. You never want to catch up. You always want to be going on to that next kick-ass thing. And not just forward, backwards. As much as you collect that brings you into the current stuff, be looking at that stuff. All of these movies are based on 8 decades of history. So that's the fun part. That's not a negative, by the way. That's a good part. Next one.
Scipio says, do you have any merch in Scipio's corner, especially me, Ant-Man, especially some Ant-Man 3 or Cocaine Bear? Don't let me down, Wills.
No, I gave all the Cocaine Bears. I didn't get a lot of Cocaine Bear stuff because we didn't actually we didn't actually do screenings. So she sent me some stuff just out of a favor, and I got that. It went just like Cocaine does. You know what, Scipio? One of these days I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to surprise you with something. And then, one of these days you're going to ask nicely, and I'll be like, you know what, CPO, I think I'll finally cut you in, but I don't know when that day will be.
JR Services, do you get any questions in the Sci-Fi Center regarding Snyder's unmade jail circle sequels or the general Snyderverse stuff?
Yeah, but not in the way that you think. Like, it's not like a Snyder bro like myself coming and saying, I can't believe they didn't do this, that. When they come in and ask, they've seen the movies and they're wondering what's next. Like, they like Man of Steel, they like the movies that they saw, but they when they come in here and they see like my stand-ups and my all my stuff that I have here, it comes up and as a matter of fact, hey, whatever happened to that, or what happened to this, or when they see my Batman or Pattinson pops, they ask about BVS or something like that. They don't ask it in a hardcore fan way, but they ask it in a very relevant, where is this stuff at, or do you remember, or whatever it happened to, and then some of them do have HBO Max and have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, because when you watch anything that has to do with Snyder, it leads you to Zack Snyder's Justice League. So they'll come in asking, what do you think's going to happen with so-and-so? Because they don't realize that all these regime changes and all this nonsense that's happened. They just want the next logical step. That's why when I say that Warner Brothers and Discovery really need to finish the storyline, not for any particular fan base, but for the sanctity and the cohesiveness of their product. Because you're right, I have people coming in that have seen this stuff, and all they want is the next logical step. So, and when they don't have it, it's like they just go on to something else. They just think about it, and as quickly as they thought about it, they as quickly as they forget about it, which is sad. But yeah, I get questions all the time, but they're not family questions; they're just regular Joe questions. Next one.
Michelle says, Thad and William, I want to say thank you for being patient with me when I ask questions about comics. Always. It's what we're here for.
Like yeah, and literally, that's what I do. That's literally what my role in life is.
If William isn't nice to people asking about comic books, he doesn't make sales. And as for me, I just love talking about comics, and I will always educate you as best I know how.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to bring people into the world that I exist in. I think I live in a very fun world. So,
Rhea asks, how do you feel about the recast T'Challa discussion? I thought that they could multiverse in a new adult T'Challa, but I'm not sure if audiences would respond well.
I thought you should have recasted him. Listen, people die. All right. It's not, that's not a spoiler alert. That is not something. Everybody who goes to the movies has lost somebody, and the world still spins. When I go, hopefully later than sooner, the world will continue to spin on its axis. I have it in my will that's, if someone takes up the Sci-Fi Center at my other job, everything else I do, they will replace me. The world goes on. It is tragic that he passed away. I wish he could have lived out until he was 80s. But when you're talking about a movie and a story, the story comes first. All right. Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. Everybody that worked on that movie, Angela Bassett, everybody from the cameraman to the producer, to the editor, to the AI guy, they all exist for the purpose of telling that story, not the other way around. Black Panther, the film, does not exist to tell the story of Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boseman was the asset that was used to tell the story of T'Challa. The story comes first. Whenever you divert yourself from the story, you go off the road. And I think it hurt that movie. I think it truly hurt that movie. It was still a good movie, but it was a Black Panther movie without the Black Panther. It had a Black Panther in it, but it wasn't the Black Panther. And every time Namor rose to a level of ascension as part of the movie, as his half of the movie, he did not have a counterpart at his level. That's his counterpart was not there. They should have taken the time, healed their wounds, and if you had to wait 3 to 5 years before the audience could take it, then that's cool. But here's the thing, though: everything exists to tell the story. So the story is not a biopic about Chadwick Boseman. If we were telling a story about him, different story. We're telling a story about a character that existed decades before he was born, and that will exist decades after his death. And heaven, Lord willing, will be played by several different people. I thought I understood their decision, but I sorely disagreed with it. I had fears that it would hurt the film, and in my opinion, it did. So that's where I fall on that one. All right, next one. Did you go to? Oh, okay. Apparently this comic book is pretty nice. Cool. We need more nice people in the world. Glad to know there's one more. Next one. All right. A few of my friends think I actually look a little bit like Floor Jensen of Nightwish. I have not watched Nightwish. Sorry. Is that you in the picture, Michelle? Is that her? Is that you in your thumbnail?
That should be. I believe that's Michelle on the thumbnail there.
Okay, cool. Because every now and then people use different, like Monkey Jeebus likes to terrify me with his thumbnails. So. And Fourth 1002 as well. So next one.
Let's see. Some of this is a lot of talking. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, I know. That's the beauty of the chat. It's cool when we have a moderator. Like on some of the bigger shows where they like the guy like Ray, or when I watch some of the war channels where I'm watching and there's like a moderator that just all he does is talk back and forth. He never gets on the air, but we're kind of like limited, so we got to do it all.
Okay, so Michelle says here, I've heard a theory in Marvel that Cyclops, his father, and brothers are descendants of Apocalypse. Yes, they are. They are. The Summers line is part of Apocalypse's bloodline. They are part of the Clan Akaba.
I never liked the way they did that, but yes, that is, yeah. Which
they are part of
you can make the case that all mutants are because remember what Apocalypse did after he woke up? He experimented on a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
I mean, he actually is responsible for certain mutants being even around. So
other mutants that are members of Clan Akaba, Blink, her bloodline is from Clan Akaba. Chambers' bloodline is from Clan Akaba. The Cannonball's family, they're from the bloodline of Clan Akaba. That's why there's so many mutants in that family.
Yeah, but it's so many times removed, though. It's not like they're going to be, it's not going to be Thanksgiving dinner with, hey kids.
He's not Uncle Apocalypse showing up every 5 days,
It's stringent at best. Next one.
He doesn't come over and fall asleep on the couch or anything.
Yeah, he just kills everybody.
Question, what you say, yes, that they would introduce Apocalypse, but in previous stream you said you don't think they were going to introduce Sentry and Void at all, because Sentry and Void are way more powerful than Apocalypse.
And they don't have. I just don't believe they not just because of power. I could be 100% wrong, Anthony, but I don't see a place in the storyline with what they're doing. But I do see a place where Apocalypse, because you already have factors in place. You already know you're getting X-Men and things like that down the line, and associated mutants, and you already have Kang already here. Well, the very next thing that Kang does is escape to become Ramatut. So to me, it just lines up. Whereas those other characters really don't line up, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Next one.
Larry says the Hoopla app works through your local public library. Just type in your info and you get 9 downloads a month.
Ah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Put that link in there.
So
cool.
Most libraries will have trade paperbacks on the shelves for people to read. So yeah,
which is beautiful. Yeah. When I was a kid, I had 7-Eleven, and that's what I had. There was nothing comic book related in my libraries. It sucks.
William, did you notice that Kang has the same technology portal Reed Richards from Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah, and he probably stole it. Remember, Kang doesn't come up with shit; he steals shit. He's smart and he knows how to use it, but he's a thief. So yeah, that makes sense.
William, who would win Reverse Flash or Kang in a fight? I'm taking Reverse Flash.
Reverse Flash, because the time travel and the things that he can do are innate within him. Once again, Kang steals shit. Kang actually has no powers. Kang just has a technological advantage on everybody he approaches. But once again, the problem that Kang, and where he always gets defeated, is once he comes into your timeline with that technology, other people can backwards engineer it, reverse engineer it, like Anthony, like Stark can, Reed Richards can, and they can counter it when they see him again. So because he can only go so far into time to where his technology can't be countered after you see him a few times. All right, go ahead.
We got a lot of cross talking here. Here we go. Outside of the DC Marvel slate, where are the big releases that the Sci-Fi Center tends to zero in on in terms of promos and screenings? I'm thinking 65 would probably be a good one.
65 would be a good one. You also have John Wick. A lot of our demographic is into John Wick. We also have Renfield's coming out. Generally, if it's science fiction and horror, we're on it. We're on it, no matter what it is. Comic book movies are the most fun. But we do. I mean, we did A Quiet Place. We did both A Quiet Place movies. We've done a lot of movies. So if it's science fiction, horror, or fantasy, it those are the ones we jump on. So yeah, once you're outside of that and you get in, you're actually in the other half of my wheelhouse, which is that genre. So those.
Anthony Manzano says, William, what do you think, guys? Does Marvel doesn't have the balls to do something in alternate universe stuff like you're going to see with James Gunn and DC with Elseworlds and Matt Reeves? Actually, they are doing multiverse stuff, so
they're doing it with their way. They're doing it. See, the difference between with Marvel and they're doing the multiverse, it's a plot device. It's part of their story. With DC, multiverses and alternate things have always been coexistent since the creation of DC. The moment you see Justice League, after you've seen Justice Society, those are two different worlds. All right, the Justice Society and the Justice League, that's the first multiverse right there. That is the very first multiverse story. Earth 1 and Earth 2. When they recreate the DC universe to go into the 1960s, to go to what was in the modern age, you reintroduced a lot of different characters. Like the Green Lantern, the idea that worked for the Green Lantern 20 years prior, they decided to do that with the Green Lantern we got. The Flash from the World War II era, we get a different Flash. But those existed on two different worlds. And every year you would have a Justice League versus JSA. It was an annual battle. So with DC, the multiverse and the parallel universe was a way of life, a decades-used way of life until they fucked it up with Crisis, and then they undid it and did it and whatever. Whereas with Marvel, it's a plot device. All right. I don't think Marvel they will do stuff with alternate universes, but they will not. That's not a way of life with Marvel. Once they sew up and consolidate their universes, that's it. I don't think they're going to go back to it. So it's just a difference in storytelling between the two companies. Next one.
I hear Ant-Man is looking at a 71% drop on the second weekend. That seems to be a trend at Marvel lately. Okay, I'm gonna answer this one. Most movies, unless they are just bangers, can have up to an 85% drop in the second weekend. This is normal for the most part.
And plus, it's going to become even more normal because you have Disney Plus. These movies are hitting Disney Plus at a rapid pace. And since it's not top tier Marvel as far as like the mainline characters goes, a lot of people will say, like I would say, when you're staring down $125 to take everybody to the movies, to give them candy, to give them everything, it's a lot of money, when you can wait 45 days if you can. A lot of that has to do with economics. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Ant-Man is Ant-Man. They never treated Ant-Man in that top level, even though he's an Avenger. They've never treated him like they would treat the mainline Captain America, Iron Man, things like that. That's just not, where they were at. They've always expected those to make good money, but they never expected them to make like the upper billion type level. So that's the 71% drop is about right for that. Next one.
Any chance of a morning show, William?
No, because I don't like the morning.
Yeah, me and William don't do that.
As you can clearly see, it is 11:35 p.m. And if you watch my streams, the Midnight Express, that lets you know when I start. Semi-overnighter or semi-over, I do not get up early. I stopped getting up early when I stopped being in the Army, and I didn't have to. I hate anything. AM is my enemy. The only thing I do in the AM is I go to bed in the AM because my average sleep time, I go to bed 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And then I get up around, 9, whatever, depending on when to run the store. Like if I can con Clint into running the store, I have him in here earlier. But I have, like I said, and on Fridays and Saturdays, I am here early. But if I can avoid the AM, I do. I don't think you would like to see me in the AM. It would just be pure comedy. I would not be coherent. I don't think there's enough caffeine to make me coherent. In the morning, I am a night owl. I see in the dark. So it depends on if you have something special, if something happens, like they break news or anything like that, or I may make an adjustment, but probably not fourth. Sorry.
Say, William, if George Lucasfilm came to you guys and asked you to rewrite the whole sequel trilogy, how would you have done it?
I would not have done it. I would not have done. My sequel trilogy would only have the Skywalkers in it as a history lesson. If I were going to do the sequel series, we're done. We're not bringing back Luke. We're not bringing back the nostalgia. We're not bringing back, because all you're going to do is rattle the diapers of those people who can't cope or deal with any other versions of those characters being told a different way. So if I were going to tell Dark Lucas, if I were going to tell George Lucas, what I would like to see done, you either go 4,000 years back to the Knights of the Old Republic series, the Freedom Ad Uprising, that area, Exar Khan, Yula Kodama, Quake Kodama, Nomi Sunrider, those characters, or you go so far into the future that when we refer to a Skywalker, it's why we pass a statue of one from about 100 or so years ago. That's what I would do.
Okay, so Larry has been talking again about the comics trope guy. Apparently, he really did do the superhero thing for a little bit with Phoenix Jones, but Phoenix Jones had some criminal activity. Apparently, the guy who does comics tropes was masquerading as a hero for a little while.
Good Lord. Nice to know. Next.
William, according to Chloe Zhao herself, during an interview, she said she was going to rewrite some of Sentry's backstory to connect it to the Eternals.
Oh, okay. No, time out. Okay, listen. Chloe Zhao, if you're watching your show, get a life, I guess.
Don't, honey, don't do it. Don't do it.
Do this. I like the Eternals, but there are some serious issues that first of all, what is with this machine shit? They're robots built by the what? You didn't need to do that. You did not need to do that. Nothing they changed as far as the Eternals origin meant anything to the greater MCU. Even for the stuff I don't see now because it's in the future, there's no reason why you could not have made them the biological experiments. You made them robots. And why is Erisham the Judge talking? Why is Erisham the Judge talking? That is like me kneeling down and carrying on a astrophysics conversation with a Pomeranian. We're not going to be talking in the same language. They're gods. They're gods. We're so beneath them that they don't talk to us. Do we talk to ants? Hey, ant, could you get out of my walkway so I don't crush you? No.
The only thing that Erisham the Judge ever said to mankind was, "You are judged."
And he really wasn't supposed to say that. I see they're gonna fuck Sentry up. All right. So to answer your question, and I hope that somebody a producer says don't do this, because that Sentry that you're getting once she deballs him is not going to be the Sentry you guys are expecting. If it's anything like they did with the actual Eternals themselves or the Celestials, you are going to get a very neutered Sentry, and in that case, just don't do them. Next.
William, thoughts on Guy Ritchie saying a third Sherlock Holmes film is up to Robert Downey Jr.?
That's good news. I'm not a fan of those Sherlock Holmes movies, but I know a lot of people like them. So I've not been a fan of that version of him. So if it's up to Robert Downey Jr., that means Robert Downey. That's translation to me. Robert Downey Jr. wants a lot of money. He wants that Iron Man money that he's not getting from a non-Iron Man movie. So here we go.
Henry Cavill actually played Sherlock Holmes in the Enola Holmes movies, which I found pretty interesting.
I guess I'm spoiled on the PBS or the BBC. Once I've seen Benedict Cumberbatch play him, I really don't want to see anybody else play Sherlock.
Okay, William, thoughts on James Gunn saying Creature Commandos is almost finished casting?
I believe it because that's a movie you could cast. He's probably casting a bunch of unknowns, but I believe it since that's the first one up. That's going to be the HBO one coming up. I'm interested. Next one.
Galactus. William, is Galactus the most powerful entity in the MCU? No.
He's one of them, but
he who remains is.
Well, okay, and you guys are bringing up he who remains is. I never thought that
the one above all is the one above all is what I meant to say. The one above all is.
I know you're talking about the Jack Kirby guy.
Yeah.
I never took that character seriously because I always thought that was a joke. That they're not a joke, but they were paying homage to Jack Kirby, who is the one above all when it comes to basically creating half the universe. And if you walk into a comic book store right now, half of everything that's on your shelf was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby together in most cases. So I always thought that was a nod to him. I never really took that character as serious as I was supposed to, I guess. So,
Anthony
no.
Manzano, stay. Do you think there's ever going to be a James Bond book so we can have a James Bond in the modern 21st century with all the surveillance technology we have? It depends. You may find an author that writes it. Who knows? I mean, it would be cool if a modern writer would pick up the James Bond story with modern stuff, but I don't know. It may never happen. It may happen. I don't know.
I'm going to say no because I think the Broccoli's and Universal like the having the complete narrative controlled by them now. They don't have to have, they can write their own scripts and do it, they no longer need to use books as inspiration if they don't want to. And to be honest with you, the rate that they need to put out the movies and the rate books come out, I don't know if they're ever going to base the James Bond off of another book again. I could be 100% wrong, but if you look at even Casino Royale and all that, those are situations because they were retelling an origin. I don't think we're going to go through another origin story with James Bond again. I think he's just going to be a younger James Bond because they did a really good job with Daniel Craig. They did a really good job. You never need to tell his origin again after that.
Wait, did the Celestials create mutants by tinkering with the genetics of ancient apes on Earth? What led to the third creation, mutants? Okay, so the story behind that is the Celestials took a group called the Wanderers, which were an early ape-like race on Earth, and they split them into thirds. A third of them became Eternals, a third of them became Deviants, and the other third became humans with an X-Factor possibility. And the chance of later on gaining powers and abilities through different situations.
Yeah, so that's what they would be judged on.
Yeah, and the Celestials, yes. So yes, they did create mutants, yes.
Yeah, so yeah. The way they've retconned shit, though, but that's the basic understanding. What he said. All right.
When was Thanos retconned as an Eternal?
He was never retconned. He's always been an Eternal. Thanos has always been an Eternal. Thanos has always been an Eternal from day one. From Iron Man 55, Thanos is the son of Mentor, a grandson of Kronos. He's always been an Eternal. He's part of the Eternals that fled to Titan. But he's always technically Thanos has human DNA because he came from that divergent. But he's a mutant Eternal. But he's always been an Eternal.
Yeah, he's an Eternal with the deviant gene.
Yeah, that's why he has the truffle under his chin, just like the Deviants do, and just like the Skrulls do, because the Skrulls are Deviants as well. Yeah. But yeah, Thanos has always been an Eternal.
Okay. I'll also say on behalf of Chris at Tropes, he said he'll never do the superhero thing again. Obviously, looks back on it as a silly period in his life, but it does kind of make me respect him even more. He does comic art now.
Probably a lot safer. I mean, geez. All right, next thing.
All right. A lot more in talking. William, thoughts on Warner Brothers Discovery has filed a lawsuit accusing Paramount of breaching their $500 million streaming rights deal for South Park.
It'll get settled out of court. Yeah, I doubt this will reach any type of trial. They'll settle out of court because it does no good for either one of them. So, say for instance, one you just lose another platform to make money, so they'll negotiate it. So there won't be a winner or a loser in that one, in my opinion.
Question: in the comic specifically, how powerful is Arishem the Judge? This is the Jack Kirby run specifically, William.
Okay. I'll answer this real quick. Very immensely powerful. Celestials are so powerful that they literally had power over the gods. One of their biggest threats to like Zeus, Odin, and all those guys is that if they interfered in their judgment on mankind, they could literally cut off their access to their human worshipers. That's how powerful they were. And when all the gods, there's a storyline in I think Thor Annual 7 or 8, where all the gods, are fighting the Celestials, and they formed into the Destroyer, and he just melts it. And then Thor is trying to fight the Celestials, and he actually knocks one down. and they were shocked that he could do that. But then they were about to kill him, and then Mother Earth comes in and saves him. But the Celestials they're literally made out of hyper time. They're made out of reality. They're literally made out of pieces of the universe. So they are supposed to be the most powerful things, one of the most powerful things that you see.
The only other thing that has ever killed a Celestial besides other Celestials was Null.
Which was bullshit. Which was absolute stacked high to the sky bullshit. That's one of those things where they bring in a character and they want this character to make this huge ass impact. Let's make him powerful. What he did to kill that Celestial was absolute horseshit. And I'm like, okay, I understand you want to make an impact with this character. And I thought that was just a plot device. I hated that. I understood Noel was powerful. I understood where he came from, but I never thought there's no way in hell he should have been able to do that. But oh well, it's a comic book, so there you go.
William, thoughts on Jon Favreau saying he has no ending plan for The Mandalorian yet? These characters could potentially be with us for a while, and I really love telling stories in their voice.
That's him just not closing himself into a corner. That's good. He may have a story in his head fleshed out, but as long as these things continue to draw, and Mandalorian is one of Disney Plus's largest draw, so there's no reason. When you say you don't have an ending plan, that's good news for the company, because they don't want. I'm pretty sure Disney Plus is like, we don't even want you to mention a light at the end of the tunnel. We just want to keep going with this train. So we could have the Mandalorian for 10, 20 years. All right, go ahead.
What sci-fi property that hasn't been adapted to film do you feel could be adapted to film? Are you familiar with Shadowrunners?
Yes, I am. I don't think that one, no. No, not that one. I fear for what they could do with that one. If it's not the right people, then yeah. Jeez. Wow, that's a hard one. What property that hasn't been adapted to film do you think are we? Pretty much all my favorite ones have been adapted. It's really hard for me to think from a.
I would like to see a good production of the Foundation books done. Actually, good Foundation, not that crap we got a couple of years back.
Man, that's a tough one. All my favorite vampire ones have been turned into movies. Are we talking about novelizations or just outright anything that's not currently into a movie? So if that's the case, then I could probably say
I wouldn't mind seeing something like Shadowrun done as a series of movies. That would be cool.
Yeah, you'd have to be really careful with that one, though. I don't know, man. That's a tough one because I'm so used to a lot of the things that I already like already being done before I even knew that they were adaptations. We've got the thing. I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm gonna draw a mulligan on that one for. Sorry.
William, what's your opinion on the lawsuit that fans sued because they were fans of Ana de Armas, but they didn't see her in the movie based off of a trailer?
They're going to lose that lawsuit because editing happens. You can't, if you start holding people liable for editorial decisions that happen at the time a trailer is released. Many times trailers are released before the movie's even done. And yeah, she may have been in the movie, but as things, other things got cut out of the movie, time gets cut, story changed, things change, and her role may no longer make sense. If you make a precedent, no one's going to be able to make editorial changes to their movie as the movie goes on and as adjustments are needed. So I think they're going to lose that lawsuit. Next one.
Okay. Next, Thade, I read the Maze Runner books. Can you explain why the movies failed so bad? Is it because the type of genre was done to death by the time those movies came out and the fans were tired of it? Yes. Hunger Games far outweighed the Maze Runner series. You also had the Allegiant Defiant series at the time. I mean, there were so many of those type of post-apocalyptic things that were coming out at the time that we were just overdone with it by the time the Maze Runner movies came out. And I can answer that personally because my daughters, who were old enough during that time period to read those books, wore me out with those fucking movies.
Here we go. Very nice.
Oh,
that was the beginning.
William, I hope you hear news about the Blade Runner TV show. Oh yeah, that's a rehash. That is our last question.
All
We're
right,
caught up.
wow, we're caught up. So we covered everything. I mean, it wasn't too much to cover, but I covered some stuff that was really cool. Like I said, and we're gonna go deeper into Kang. I mean, there's a lot, and like I said, eventually we'll one of ours as we get closer to Kang Dynasty. I do want to do a Sci-Fi Center Presents that just goes into full on video and everything. But right now, I think that just based on the movie itself, I think this is the best way for our audience to give them the starting points to start with. Some of the classic stuff. But like I said, even without that classic stuff, even if you skip to the classic stuff, this is a contained story that allows you to get very familiar with the character. And if you're already watching things like Loki, you've already been introduced to him long before Ant-Man and Wasp. And now you just have a little bit more to go into. I do think he's going to be a significant part of their multiverse saga, simply because of how he comes about. Each time he does something, he's creating different circumstances. So I think that's how they're going to use that's their plot device for that going forward. And I also think that it's a really good way to bring in Apocalypse because of the rise of Apocalypse. And I don't know if they're going to name it this way, but I do think that the ultimate end to the major mutant story arc will be Age of Apocalypse. So it's so relevant to them.
All right, we just had a couple more questions sneak in under the radar. JR Server with all the martial arts guys in John Wick 3 and John Wick 4. Who else would you want to see board the John Wick franchise? I'd love to see Michael Jai White personally.
Steven Seagal. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Has Mark Dacascos been in there yet?
No, he hasn't been, but that would be cool.
That's my dude. There's not too many that haven't been any part of that series. That series has done very well for itself.
I'd like to see some of the younger cats that are coming up from like the Cobra Kai series. They could possibly do some of the John Wick stuff too now because they're getting to that age.
Yeah, I've never watched Cobra Kai. By the way, I know I'm in the minority. I've never ever watched Cobra Kai, and I have no plans on making myself feel that fucking old by watching the fucking Karate Kid going to my face again.
You are judged.
I am not watching that show. Every time I hear about that show, I'm like, wow, Karate Kid came out almost 40 years ago. Let's make ourselves feel like, dirt under the grave. No, I'm not watching.
Actually, Cobra Kai is really good, and they don't disrespect Daniel and Johnny. It's actually really good. I
don't want to be reminded about sitting in and watching those characters for the very first time. That I don't know with any other franchise. That one makes me feel old just knowing that they're looking at those guys. They look like they're hitting 60. Question: if they don't bring back John Bernthal for the MCU as a Punisher, who do you guys want to play him? There's a lot of people that could play him. It doesn't even need to be a star too. Because to be honest with you, John Bernthal is not a huge star. He's a star, but I mean they got him.
Tom Hardy.
Nah. I mean, Tom Hardy can play a lot of characters, but I don't know if that's one that. I do think they're going to bring back John Bernthal, but
Bernthal wants to do it, and I bet they will bring him back. This is not a question, Scipio. William, speaking of Blade Runner, Deckard is human. Stop.
Okay, I got a guy here named John Kane. He's here working on my electrical. And we had this conversation last night about Blade Runner and about Deckard, whether he was a replicant or not. I'm telling the whole world now, if you don't believe that Deckard is a replicant, you are wrong. You are wrong all at once. Anywhere in this world, anywhere in this galaxy, Deckard is a replicant. All right? He's man-made. He's a replicant. All right, the clues are there. They literally tell you. The only thing that they don't do is bleed across the screen with a scrolling sign saying, I'm a replicant. My name is Rick Deckard. That's the only thing that they don't do. He's a replicant.
Do you think fans overanalyze or care too much about the ratings of certain types of comics like The Punisher specifically? Because people feel that the character has to be rated R. There are certain characters that have to be rated R. Sorry.
Punisher's one of them.
Punisher's one of them. Guys like Carnage, guys like the Joker should be really rated R.
It depends. Okay, so certain ones of those characters, like Carnage, you can get away by not showing the actual act of him killing people. And there's certain characters that don't have to be R. Joker, you can do a Joker that's not R rated as long as you don't go too far. Like in the Dark Knight, there was no blood. When he puts the pencil to the guy's skull, you don't see blood. You don't see a lot of hacking stuff going on like you do see when Joaquin Phoenix. However, Punisher's character is a little bit hard because of the manner in which he kills people. He kills people in a way like would be John Wick style, and John Wick is rated R. He shoots people point blank. He stabs people. He cuts their throat. The manner in which he kills. If you're going, yes, you could do a PG. You could do a PG Punisher, but it would suck. All right, it's like Megan. Megan sucked when you watch it without the uncut. When you watch it without cut, you see his scalp getting ripped off and everything else. You see what the writer intended. If he's going to become like Deadpool on its own needs to be a rated R movie. But if you're going to blend him into the Marvel universe, or like to have him, hanging out with certain groups in the MCU, you can tone it down because the focus is not on him. But when the focus is on him and he's cutting, cussing, killing, and making really vulgar jokes, it's R. It's R. So certain characters, anything can be done. It's just how do you want to affect the quality of what you're doing by not giving yourself that leeway to do whatever you want. All right, next one.
Let's see here. Here's a funny one. William, do you have stock Darth Scipio's merch corner yet, or what?
Listen here, Bucko. You just don't roll in here demanding stuff. You got to catch me on a good day and in a good mood to be giving you anything, and plus I have to actually have something to give you. So tell you what, Darth Scipio, you message me your address, and one of these days I'll surprise you. How about that? Or what is the answer to that question, Larry? Next.
Well, hold on. There we go. This is the issue where I disagree. You can have a very hard PG-13 Punisher with violence in the MCU.
You can, but there are certain themes that are. It's not just the violence that he does. There are certain themes that, depending on what kind of Punisher story you're going to write, you can write a PG-13. But if you are going to explore the full potentials of the character, the drug, the druggies, the drugs themselves, the narcotics, the heroin, the things that he deals with, the prostitution, the drug lords, the pimps, all the things that could come in potentially come into a Punisher storyline, you are now dealing with elements that are onto themselves R-rated material. Now, you can tell a basic generic superhero of a guy shooting people from a distance and beating people up. And yeah, you're right. You could do it if they decided to do it that way. However, if they decide to do it on his own, you can't do that. You could throw Punisher in there with a battle with Captain America, fighting some Hydra people, and get away with that. But when you're focusing on him, I don't know if it'll fly. Even if you did it, will the fans take it? Because remember, especially if it's Barenthal, that Punisher PG-13.
And we are caught up on questions.
All right, what time is it? 11:59. All right, cool. So yeah, let's see. We got our independent filmmaker out of the way. We got our Kang discussion out of the way. We avoided any nonsense tonight. Last week comes on tonight. Episode what? Is it 6 or 7 tonight?
7.
All right. So wow, we only have by the time we're done with Last of Us, we'll be rolling in with Pedro Pascal to because March 1st is Baby Yoda time.
Yep.
And
little fella time, man. Little fella time.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how that series is going to go, and then we have Strange New Worlds is coming up pretty soon, and I have Discovery coming up pretty soon. So we got a lot coming up. March is going to be the month where I probably stream less than any other month since I started doing this because of the fact that we have a major event here live every weekend in March for the most part. We have Tromania, which is going to be huge. Hopefully, we have Project Ripper. Project Ripper that we're redoing now, March 17th and 18th. We have Bash at the Square, which is a wrestling event that I will be hosting here in our plaza. We'll have a wrestling ring, and we got live wrestlers and all kinds of stuff happening there. I got Rocky Horror on March 11th. So There may be a good while once we get into the thicket of March where you guys won't see me a lot. Just word to the wise. However, we will move it to like a Sunday night or something like that, so you won't go without a full overnighter. It just will most likely not be on Saturday, simply because now that the weather's starting to get to that point, there's only a certain window of time where I can use the great outdoors here in Las Vegas before hell on earth comes in late June, July, and then we're talking about people exploding from 100-degree heat, and then we're back at it in September. When you have the fall come in, and then it gets really cold. So this is the springtime window that's coming up soon. So I will try to do as much as I can. Plus, we're going to have movie promos as well happening. So March is just one of those months that just takes over. So yeah, but we'll try to stream and do a lot of different ones there. Go ahead, Theta. You're about to say something?
I'm just trying to. We got to Star Trek Discovery in July. I believe Strange New World starts after Picard. So
okay, so Strange New Worlds, and I know if you guys are watching Lower Decks, have fun with it. I don't watch it completely unless there's something in there that's referred to. I actually watched more Prodigy. I actually watched more Prodigy than I did Lower Decks, and that's because it had Voyager people in it. So
this season, Strange New Worlds crosses over with Lower Decks, so there's going to be at least an episode or two that you're going to have to watch there.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you're giving me a reason to. Right now, I tried with Lower Decks. I don't hate it. It's just not for me, man. So
Boimler and the female character from Lower Decks are going to be live action on Strange New Worlds, and Captain Pike's going to be cartoon on Lower Decks. So
yeah, I saw. I wonder what they're going to do with his pompadour. That shit's going to be like to the roof.
It's going to be crazy.
His hair grows every time you see him. His pompadour is higher and higher. I'm like, dude, yeah. What's the limit? What are you, Conan O'Brien or something like that? So, all right, guys, I have done it. I have done my job as your head geek, and I have shepherded you in from what was Saturday, February 25th, and to Sunday, February 26th. Some huge games for me. I have my Kings are playing today, and my Lakers are playing today. So even without the NFL, I still have something to watch to get my blood going and piss me off, depending on how it goes. And like I said, I may be on tomorrow night, but I may have just burnt myself out for the week. It's been a pretty shitty week for me. Allergies all throughout the week. Rain, snow, all kinds of stupid shit coming from the sky. It's like the apocalypse. And I think I've got it all out of my system. So, all right, guys, you guys have a good night. Stay safe. Try not to kill each other.
Okay, we've got one more question before we go. Scipio says, William, before you go, what's your take on Picard season 3? Doomcock and Yellow Flash have a feud going on because of it.
Okay, I don't know who Yellow Flash is. I never pay attention to Doomcock. It's just not my taste. I love 3 so far. It's a lot of rehashed and a lot of recycled stuff, but this is how you do nostalgia, like we discussed on our show yesterday. They're doing a lot of nostalgia that you can point out and say, well, that's from that, but they're putting it together in a way that it is still enjoyable. So far, so good. And we haven't even been introduced to the rest of the old cast yet. I mean, we have Worf, we have Beverly, we have Picard, and we have Riker. But we still have Geordi to see. We still have who else is left? That's Data or Laura or wherever the hell he's going to be. And we still need to find out what Captain Vadic is up to and why she's up to it, and the backstory before what I think is going to happen with what's his face, Captain Shaw. I think he's gonna die heroically. I'm calling it now. It's not a spoiler. That's just when you start to get attached to a guy who was an asshole, they usually kill him. So far so good, and we're only on what? We're only on episode 3, so we got a lot still to cover. A lot can still change, but I'm enjoying season 3 so far.
Yep. All right, guys. You guys take it easy.
All right, go ahead and take it in. Let me get his thing off the screen here. I like to do my outro with a clean screen there. There we go. All right, guys. We will see you sometime soon.